I mean,
Gotcha.
that's
Just making sure.
That's him. And there's a guy on there that I spoke to, you know, outside of the show and stuff, and adds a lot of perspective that's, I think, useful, and is actually also now starting to be considered intelligent for all of its ridicule as the pattern goes, and that's Arwin, with his angular slant. And I don't want to say any more other than just to give him a shout out, and maybe in a week or two, I know we've got a busy few weeks ahead, but maybe give him a shout out and have the opportunity for him to come on and do a proper presentation on Arwin's angular slant, because without fear of interruption or minimal clarification requests, Arwin, not interruption. So yeah, I'm
gonna pop in and adjust your mic there on OBS, Adam. Nathan's saying you might be a little bit hot. So.
I'm always hot, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, he got hot? I thought Nathan actually was saying he sounded really great earlier. Apparently something happened.
It wasn't a shout out, Arwin. Yeah. It was a request, mate.
Just get further away.
As Nathan would say, it's simple,
that
mate.
Must be it.
Yes
you got up in the
or
mic.
no.
Yes or no what?
Do you want to do it? Not thanks for the shout out. It was a more direct thing. I'd love for you to come and actually do a full presentation, Arwin, of your concept of angular slant, because I understand it from you describing it to me, but I've never seen it fully exposed, for want of a bad pronunciation. What are you doing to me, Josh? Am I better? Do I sound better?
Nathan was saying get further away. I thought you might be just a little bit hot, so I just toned you down just a hair.
I'm not going into the garden.
There you go. See, I was back scrolling and saw him praising Adam's great sound earlier, so I just got back to where we are, trying to see if I missed anybody there in chat. I'm sure I did. My apologies if I have. No offense meant. I love you all.
You sounded good, my end, Adam.
Yeah, you sound great on my end.
I don't know what's going out, so I
if we're
can't
doing
help.
shout-outs, Night West Coast Wisdom. I know she catches us early, and then
I know, man.
Catches up tomorrow morning. So
that's
night,
what's
mate.
up. We appreciate it.
Hey, I tell you what would be great from you, mate, would be a picture of what the supposed night sky is like up there, because down in Nottingham middle, it's the sun's at on a clock face. It's about 11 o'clock. It's still pretty light, half and half. But it'd be great to see the difference of what it's like up there, because I can imagine.
How far north is
it's the west coast of Scotland. I'm not sure exactly how far north, but
okay, that would be well cool. Yeah, got to say shout out to Bob from Glowbusters. Looking forward to the show on Sunday. Finally, you bastard.
Welcome back, right?
And Sleeping Warrior Tony out there. Ranty as well. Hello. See, you got me looking at chat now.
Good man. That's it. D. Evening.
Well, let's explain maybe to everybody in chat why this is a concern for us. We all love interacting with chat. In fact, chat sometimes takes on a life of its own, completely away from the show, and therein lies the problem. As many great minds as we have hanging out with us, it's so just enticing to look at that chat and get into those conversations, but then I myself lose track of the show here. If someone asks me a question, John, for instance, will ask me something, and I'm not quite as attentive as I would like to be. So myself personally, I'm trying to get all my hellos to people early on and then kind of get out of the chat so that I can focus right here. And that's not, it's a tough little balancing act sometimes.
You're right. Matt H, shout out, mate. How you doing out there, fella? Sorry.
And my apology is to the chat, because I deliberately ignore it. I try not to open it up, try not to look at it, because I know I'm a
We are
bloke.
waking up. Forget John. We are waking up to give me a shout.
I'm a bloke, and
are
I can
waking
only
up
do one
fucking
thing at a
dudes.
time. So if I'm either looking at chat, then I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing here, which is trying to apply my brain to a conversation. So yeah, apologies to chat. I don't do it much, but I love you all.
Bruno. I can't leave you out. I've seen your name in there.
Uh-oh, that's not good. Sounds something's echoing badly.
Giving me feedback.
Keep talking, Adam. It should go away.
Don't go giving me evils. That we're good. There we go. Okay, shall we move on then? With that was the nice shout outs.
And I'm not in chat at all. I mean, I'm sort of keeping an eye on it on my phone.
Stopping traffic in my Rasta hat.
Here we go.
Shouted you out.
Hear me now.
So I didn't know Glowbusters had community guideline strikes.
I just
That's
saw
why
that
they
too.
had a break. Yeah, I'd heard something about it, but I'm just reading what Bob said. We've been on a break and we got a community guideline strike on our main channel, so we can't live stream again until August 21st. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's time we move away from this YouTube malarkey.
Indeed it is. Somehow.
What's BitChute like?
They're all pretty much a learning curve, you know. That's really what I've discovered. None of them operate exactly like YouTube in that, you know, it's always a different process for uploading, or it's a different process for tagging, or it's a different process for just learning the ropes. I mean, it took us this long to get this far, whatever that is,
I know.
on YouTube.
I know I can't upload our shows to my BitChute channel, but probably I
Right.
imagine because they're too long.
That's it. That's the problem. That's going to be our main issue with BitChute, is length.
But looks like, have we been joined by someone?
We have, my goodness.
Hello, gentlemen.
Is it the puppy dog? Hello, mate. How you doing, Zach?
Hello, good friend.
Good. How's everybody doing today?
Good evening, Zach. How you doing, fella?
Oh, John, always a pleasure. Always
That's
a
Adam.
pleasure.
Good man. Good to see you on here, mate. That was
Yeah, you
Adam, by
too,
the way.
Yeah, I've been wanting to chat with you, man. I know you're really interested in this subject, and
Don't tell me we haven't chatted
Right up your
before,
alley.
because I thought we had.
no, I know we have, but I'm
Oh,
talking
God.
recent.
You're scaring me there.
We've had Zach on before, but it's been a good.
It's been a minute. A
No.
minute.
Yeah,
That was something you guys said on TFR the other day. You know, in this journey, that you meet so many people and you blur so many lines between what was a text chat, a real chat, this chat, and it's not worth worrying about. We've spoke, and it's Adam again now, not John.
yeah.
No, it's not.
No, I
I'm
mean-
Adam.
I can tell the difference.
Adam is the one in the darkness.
Yeah.
I'm the
I
one
can always
even
tell the
darker.
You guys.
Well, it's good to hear your voice, mate. Really nice to have you back on.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Oh,
Well, welcome, and how was the rest of your Friday after we saw you in chat this morning?
I guess not bad. I was on a machine that I despise. Me and this machine don't get along. They have consciousness just like everything else, and me and this one
Yes,
just
they
don't
do.
click. Whenever I go to mess with this machine, it just decides to freak out every time I'm near it.
Is it because you
It's usually-
ignore it? You're not talking enough to your machines. No?
No,
There's silicon in there, mate. Come on.
That's it. It's
Came
natural.
over me today. I've always despised this machine. It's just because it's so old and they won't fix it. It's not the machine's fault. I told it that today. I actually did. I was like, man, I know it's not your fault, but you got like over $250,000 worth of repairs needed, and I hate you. I just don't want to deal with you.
And is that the machine you're on now, yeah?
Yeah, that's the one I had to run today. With the machine that I love right there. Nobody touching it at all.
Give it a stroke. Give it a stroke.
Empty.
I'm the same with printers. My nemesis is printers. Even though I was an IT engineer or technician and support and all the rest of it, for years I just cannot just get my head around printers. And I've literally gone through dozens in the last 5 years or so. But I've got one, a brother, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I stroke it, and I pray it never goes wrong, and it hasn't to date. But yeah, printers, my thing. Bad news.
Yeah, this is actually printing presses that I'm playing with right now. And yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. I've messed with them for years. It's going on 15 years now that I've been in and out working with these machines. And this one just does not. I don't know what it is. I don't turn the knobs any different than any of the other ones, but this one just. One guy even says, "Oh, that one likes to be talked dirty to." They want you to pack it around a little bit, and then it'll work right.
That's it. Some of them do things like that.
I've got a petrol hedge trimmer that likes it rough.
You got
she
a
won't
car,
so you give her a beating, and then.
You've got a car that's hemorrhaging itself.
After that,
haven't you, Adam?
What was that?
You've got a special car on your front drive that's hemorrhaging everything you earn.
Somebody's sucking power from her. I think it's everybody else's negativity that's drawing that power out of that battery. Everybody else wants to be getting right. Mate, I grew up on a council estate, and I never ever dreamt I'd own a Porsche. Yeah, so I got this car, and
do people know what a council estate is?
What they do if they're in the UK?
Social housing or social security housing or whatever. Carry on now.
I'm lucky enough to have been able to buy, and I don't want to give her up. Do you know what I mean? Because I just love her so much. And everybody else wants to get rid of her, and nobody can find the problem with this car. Yeah, but forever it's getting drained of power. If I leave her for a day when I'm not in it and don't drive her, then she just drains power. And I honestly, there's no obvious solution. It's not one auto electrician that's looked at it. It's 3 or 4, and they all go, yeah, mate, I'll sort it for you. I'll sort it, no worries. Yeah, and no one can fix it. And like I say, it's everybody else is drawing her power. Yeah, we figured that out live.
Couple of solar panels on the roof. That'll sort it out.
More love.
In the
everybody
form
else
of buying it solar panels.
She's mine, and she's not going. She's staying.
Anyway, we're way off track already.
Yeah.
Josh, bring us back.
I got nothing. I'm just trying to think of a cool series of switches you could install that would get it to work. So, I mean, totally more than you need, but just knobs and switches and dials and things you can do. So when you're giving somebody a ride, you can start your car. You can take about 5 minutes to get everything adjusted just right. And then
Zach, you'll dig why I'm reluctant to do this. So my friend Carl, who helps us out with all the hardware and stuff for IRM, shout out Carl. He's more than happy to put in some electronics, right, which he calls a kill switch. And
God, don't do that. Don't do that on a German bloody car.
No.
Do not do that these days. You will screw the immobilizer. You'll never get the radio back again. Just forget it. Put solar panels on the roof and keep the bastard charged.
That's not my point. I don't want to install a thing called a kill switch in her.
Oh dear.
That doesn't sound healthy.
You know what I mean? It's just not nice, is it? You know, when you're talking about talking to trees, and it's only because you guys have got onto mechanics as having some kind of.
Oh, they do. Yeah, constantly.
Yeah. I'm not saying I recognise it. It's just it's got me emotional because of my car. I'll give it to trees and that, and I've been chatting again today, mate. Do you know what I mean? But anyway. Move on from.
All I know is that my plants grow far better when I talk to them and stroke them and try and exude love towards them. and tell them what's going on, tell them what's happening. And I'm trying to grow them in pairs now as well, so that they're not on their own, because I only grow one plant at a time. And yeah, unfortunately, the last one, the partner died. So this one's been on its own like all the others. But that's all I know from experimentation and testing it. The plant that I talk to grows way better than one I ignore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't ignore any plants now. I was gonna do experiments this year, just to show other people, but I don't want to ignore a plant. You know,
Seems
I
cruel.
don't want to. Yeah, now it seems like I'm being.
That's what you were talking about last time you were on, wasn't it? Is that you couldn't. We worked out that it didn't. The rice experiment or something didn't work for you because you just didn't have the hate in you to give to the hate plant or the hate jar.
There's the hate jar right there.
Look at that. You see,
Thriving
you're just
is
too
always-
nice. You're too nice.
That's what I've got on my show notes, guys. I've got at the top there, too nice for rice. It's
Too nice
just to
for
remind
rice.
me that
That is the
this
secret hidden track for sure on my third album.
What's that one? The love?
Indifference.
Oh,
This is the
indifference.
Yeah,
And
that
then,
looks like a little something going on.
There's the love. That's the stuff maybe on the. It's like a white film that formed on the outside edge a little bit
Gotcha.
from the water in the bottom. Yeah, I can't find any mold in any of it though. I'm kind of scared to open it because I think then it might mold instantly. I don't know, like within a couple days. I'm not sure.
That would be an ultimate test, though, wouldn't it? It was to take the lids off and then give them proper love, give them proper hate, give them proper indifference.
Well, I was thinking now giving them to somebody and letting them try the experiment and seeing if they could get it to mold.
There you go. You heard it first on Iron Realm
There we
Media
go, right?
eBay channel. You got it. All
I
proceeds.
tell you what's a better experiment there, Zach, is for you to take 30 jars, okay, and talk to them all for a couple of weeks, and as long as none of those jars exhibit anything outside of anything other than they all look the same, any variants you take out, and then if you could then donate them after a couple of weeks to 3, 4, 5 different people, up to, if they all stayed the same, 10 different people, and then ask them to perform the experimenting on it and then analyze the results from there. That would be more viable as a, I hate to use the word scientific experiment now anymore because I know Nathan's in chat, but it would certainly certainly add more preponderance of evidence for Bob that's in chat.
Why? What's wrong with science?
Well, the definition of science, and I support Nathan in that.
No, I just haven't. I haven't listened to it lately. Just so far.
Well, it's sad for the ballers that they are getting schooled, and their only response is to cry foul of the manner in which they're getting their ass whooped by Nathan when they try to bring in scientific evidence of anything. That's just a good point. This week was an interesting week. I like Nathan's show, and it's something I join in with every now and again, or try to in little bits where because there's a lot of shit in there from the ballers, isn't there? But it was interesting this week. There wasn't a great deal of revelations, like, you know, some of the stuff they do, and you're going like, oh, I've got to get it on. It's brilliant. Look at Sharkboat. Let me call up Sharkboat while we're talking this.
I love Sharkboat.
Sharkboat. Oh, no, it's Barracuda Boat first. There you go. But this week, it's been a good bitch slapping for lots of people that are on the ball side. But it was kind of like summarised this week for me, which was their basic beliefs are, what was it, Josh? Proof of R is 2 sticks in the ground.
Yep.
and proof of G is 2 balls in a shed.
So the R one has already been betrayed to them by their priest, Tyson, who's already admitted that it is neither proof of a flat Earth or a spherical Earth, which of course we've been bleating on about for donkeys and arguing incessantly in circles with idiots on Twitter, trying to explain to them that the 2 sticks and shadows could work on a ball as well as a flat Earth, as was shown probably over 100 years ago by Voliver, who he was a nut job in his own case, but he did quite convincingly show that the sticks and shadows was neither proof for a flat Earth or a ball Earth. So that's and that's been acknowledged by Tyson. So that's one of their things thrown out. What was the other one? Scientific.
Well, just a sec, because I had to run out there, guys, because we've been having this is another good bit of synergy, Zach. Oh, I'm stupid. I'm getting old. We've had all these technical issues, haven't we? And you can see I've got these nice headsets that my boys said I had to get these ones. And we had a few problems with them last week, and so we've had all these bits with tweaking here and there. But apparently, you need to tweak the human being as well, because I'm in the garden in the shed, and my wife was just shouting there. Apparently, I'm shouting my head off because I can't hear nothing because I've got these headsets on. So I don't know if you can dial in, Josh, and just turn me down a bit.
No, that would physically turn you down there.
Yeah.
I'm probably the same. I'm sat here in a vehicle on my drive, and there's probably people walking past thinking, what the hell is that guy shouting at?
Well, if I get above this level, tell me I'm a little loud, guys. So whether that's gone quiet now on YouTube, I don't know, but
I say smoke another spliff. That should help.
I don't know what you're on about. This is the UK, and stuff like that is not legal, my friend.
I say,
however,
ask
rolling
Zach.
tobacco is. So
I
That's not
say,
what spliff is? Oh, I just thought a spliff meant regular cigarette. I didn't know it meant anything else.
no, it just means hand rolling tobacco.
Yes, the cigarettes. Having a cigarette would calm you down.
well, I say we ask Zach a long and rambling question about something and listen to his dulcet tones, and then your wife won't get leery and my neighbours won't start thinking I've gone insane. So, Zach, tell us about spagyrics.
Spagyrics.
Yeah. Did I pronounce it wrong?
Yeah, perfect. Spagyric elixirs or tinctures. They're really, really simple to make. They've been making these for thousands of years. So they say, you know how history goes. But it's in essence, it's breaking down something to its 3 basic forms. In alchemy, you have a spirit, a soul, and a body. That is your spirit would be considered the mercury, is what they call it in alchemy. Your soul is then considered the sulfur, and then the body is considered the salt. Now, in spagyric elixirs, what you do is you separate the 3, and it's really easy in herbal alchemy. You don't need a very strong solvent or a solvent to break it down. You can just use alcohol, any alcohol over 50% alcohol, 100 proof. They say the stronger the better. It has to be a potable alcohol, something you can consume. So I use Everclear, which is 190 proof.
I was going to ask, what is Everclear? I mean, that's a brand name over there or something, is it?
It's
Yeah.
about the closest thing to pure alcohol that you could purchase over the counter. It's still potable alcohol. It's not going to make you go blind or crazy or anything.
So
Well,
is
it's still
it,
may. It's
is,
harsh.
is that what they drink under the bridges and stuff? Or
Probably no, probably not
No,
even.
it's expensive. It's a little more expensive.
oh,
Right. So you've got to be very careful here when you're talking about the alcohols you're going to use for medicinal and ingesting purposes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we've talked in the past, about solvent extraction, which is when you're talking about cannabis oil extraction, it doesn't really matter because you're going to remove that solvent. In these kind of things, you're going to ingest the solvent as well. So when you're looking at it, things like isopropyl alcohol, all those perfectly useful solvents in other processes just kick out straight away. In my opinion, and so, I don't know, give your opinions. For me, secondly, stay clear of any of the DIY store chemical alcohols here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because they're going to have anti-drinking properties in, like wood naphtha, which will send you blind and sterile. Because the consideration is here, you're going to ingest this product. So for me, absolute alcohol concentration isn't the most important thing here. I would actually, in the sense of the science, and I'll use the word science here, because it is scientifically validated, this stuff, and I want to get onto some of that later. Part of the heart of this science is to kind of work with the things you're using. So for me, I wouldn't necessarily go for a highish yield alcohol component. If I could get the thing I was thinking about, Zach, was rather than all these things, we have a thing over here that's called a potato vodka, which is grown in the soils of the UK. It's produced to a high volume, and it's pretty much flavourless, and but it's abstracted from the grounds of this country. It's potato vodka, for one. That's what it is. So for me, that's the thing I was considering using, to try and, rather than going for the absolute overly purified things.
I'm glad you
that's
said
the thing.
that.
Here in Indiana, that's what it's made out of, is corn. It's a grain alcohol. And we have a saying, there's more than corn in Indiana, because, I mean, this whole state is just covered in corn. That was one of the reasons. You're absolutely right. You want to use plants that are familiar with your area. All plants possess alcohol. You could actually use the alcohol from the plant you're using. They say that's how you should do it, but it's like gathering the alcohol out of mint, or it's hard. It is. You have to have a lot of it to get it. So I actually have a buddy who has a still. I'm trying to get a hold of him because I'd love for him to take some of my plants and just suck all the alcohol out of it and then give it back to me so I can use it that way.
So how would you do that, Zach?
Well,
with a distiller, how would you do that?
You kind of cook it. You turn it into a mash and let it ferment for a while and get hot before you start distilling it. And I mean, he went and bought a still, an actual, moonshine and still, to make your own grain alcohol or whatever kind of alcohol you want to make.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I've got a distiller.
Well, I think it's a little bit different. It's not like a water distiller. I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I imagine it's big copper thingy,
exactly.
and lots of glass work, but essentially they do the same thing, though, don't they? They evaporate the whatever you put in them, and they take
like
the
big
water.
Collector in the one where you're actually cooking it for a long period of time before you turn it on, and it's under pressure for such a certain amount of pressure, and it's really neat. There's a lot of science. I'll use that word. There's science that goes into it. Very you want to know what you're doing. There's a lot of people that don't know, and they end up blowing them up.
You'll hear that's probably they're illegal in the UK. You know that?
Oh, really? Here in Indiana, you're allowed to have them, but only for personal use. You're not allowed to sell it.
I think
that's an ATF thing. I think too. That's a federally mandated. they got to get their taxes in.
Oh,
If you're selling it and you're not taxing it, then they're not getting their money.
I think
There's-
nail clippers are illegal in the UK here, I think.
John, it still is illegal, but if you go and buy a piece of equipment called a Liebig condenser with a round bottom sidearm flask, you have in effect a piece of lab equipment which will provide you a lot more accuracy than a still ever could.
Are you talking plumbing?
Have I got that?
You could turn it into copper, but it's glassware. It's proper lab equipment, mate. Like, it's not your plumbing, it's lab equipment.
It's chemistry
I'm
plumbing.
I'm seeing if I've got any of the bits in here just now.
Yeah.
I just ordered my first lab still. I can't wait till it gets here. It should be here. Oh, it should have already been here. I'm being patient. Today I actually got some new friends. My golden seal plants.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got 12 of them, and I'm gonna plant them. I'm not sure where. I was thinking of putting them here in my gardens, but
Is that seeds?
no, they're actually the roots. I don't want to pull them out yet. I don't even want light to hit them until I'm gonna plant them. I'm gonna do it early in the morning tomorrow before the sunrise.
I was looking today about buying, because I wanted to plant some hops, and they come in root form. Like, is that what you got in front of you, like root form?
Yeah.
Yeah, they said whatever you do immediately when they arrive, immediately open them and wet them. So I don't know if that's
Well, no, these are kind of sealed off, and it didn't say anything like that.
okay.
So
I
the
got 'em.
question I'd have on that, right, from what I'm learning is, and now from what I've learned from you, if I was doing that, I'd keep them in the box from a horticultural point of view, but from a Zabala point of view, I'd have held the box up and said, boys, you're home, chill out for a bit, we're coming out soon, don't worry about it, but you're home.
Oh yeah, I already did that.
Yeah.
You know that. I let them know. Don't worry, you're not going to be in there much longer.
Yeah.
Here in a few hours, we're going to get you out and let you spread out, and we got some beautiful soil all set up for you and ready to go. And you're home now. Don't worry. No animals are going to eat you. I'm here to take care of you. You're never going to go dry. Don't worry about anything like that. Yeah, just do what you do.
Yep.
One day you and me are going to be united, and we'll do magical things together.
You
That's
know what,
awesome.
mate? We always have a smoke blowing session, and mate, genuinely, bruv, thank you for the insight that I've learned from you on this, and I genuinely, you can hear from the way I'm talking about it, it is actually nice. I was talking to Martin Leake this evening and describing the same thing, and he was saying the same thing, and he was going, yeah, I don't go wandering round. And I says, no, I don't do the full Prince Charles kind of scenario where, you know, they want you to pretend you're mad. But as I go around the garden mentally, I'm talking to the plants, and the thing I said to Martin that recently I've learned from the TFR show is to actually, I was talking to my plums and my apple tree and my pear tree, and from what I've learned from you, saying, look, make this fruit really big and right, and make what you put in it help me and my family as well. There's the other thing I said to him, you know what I mean, in terms of their growth from the nutrition you're going to give us. And that learning I've took from you, brother, thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I mean, thank you for taking that leap and trying it.
I'd like to blow
it
some
is.
smoke as well. Just say thanks. You showed me how to pinch off the center bud or whatever it was. I think it was on your lemon balm. So
And then split 'em?
so it would split them, and I knew how to do it. Well, I didn't know how to do it. I'd read about it on forums and things like this to make the plant a little bit more bushier, and I was doing some weird shit. I was cutting it off halfway through the bud, and it just wasn't really. But you just showed me, this is how you do it, and so I did it on my plant, and I put a little bit of pipe cleaner around the ones that I'd done, and yeah, they split off beautifully. And you can do that again and again and again, can't you?
Oh yeah, you can make a huge bush. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's
We all love a
amazing
huge bush.
how it works, isn't it?
It is. That's great. No, yeah. So I appreciate
I'm a child
that.
of the
And
70s.
tomorrow's going to be my day to go to the like Home Depot here and gather up some little plants needing some help and bringing them home and giving them a new place to live.
There you go. Well, all you need starts with a couple. That's all. You don't have to have a huge giant garden to start. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just
It did crack me up that you sort of speak to the plant and tell it that one day we will unite in beauty, and that always sort of reminds me of the Sausage Factory film. Do you see that, where they're all like uniting in beauty? I can't wait, and it's like, dude, it's code for he's going to eat you, and it's like. But no, I what I use is vodka, only because I got it cheap and duty free one time. I think it's 45%, but knowing our nanny state, it could be 40%. So I was talking to a herbalist, a very well qualified herbalist from Glastonbury, and yeah, he was saying as long as it's over 40%, I think it'll do the job. But what I do is I collect the plants or whatever, plantain or dandelion root or whatever, and I soak it in vodka, and then I leave it for like 5 years, and that's basically where I'm up to now. And I'm quite glad that I've been hearing about the spagyrics thing and the importance
5
of the
years.
yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm just a lazy bastard, but
They say the longer the better, really.
oh really? What, to soak it in?
Yeah.
Right.
As long as no air hit it, because if air hit it, it'll turn to vinegar.
No, it's in an airtight jar in the shade in cool area. But it's been there. I put the date on it. I think it was 2012 actually, so it might be 6 years.
I thought I did along with 3 months.
Well, I got all into it, and then something else obviously came up, and I got all into that, and I got through the process enough to put I did it with plantain and loads of other things, and I couldn't be bothered to look at that puppy drool. Sorry, I couldn't be bothered to drain it and get out the body, so the body is still in there. So would it be advantageous now to drain it and keep the body and then dry that and burn it and do the same? What do I do with it?
Yeah, that's exactly what you would do. You would well, they say you want it to be incubating, so I would put it somewhere. They say over 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which, let me see,
25.
yeah, about 25 degrees to about 40 degrees, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius. You kind of want it to get it warm a little bit to let it start kind of cooking a little bit. Yeah, let it kind of cook. You're almost cooking it.
Sort of percolating, or
yeah,
it's
too hot. You don't want it bubbling. You don't want to burn it, but you just want it to stay warm for about a month.
It's at about 22 now. I haven't been shaking it.
Well, that's not too bad. Well, yeah, if you wanted to do it, I'd start shaking it today.
Sweet, will do.
So just start shaking it.
So we just let whoever wants to say hello to the show say hello. He's stuck his head in, or her head in. And who's that, Zach? What's the name of the pup?
Oh, that's Hank. Come here.
Hi, Hank.
How old's Hank?
Actually, he was a rescue, so we're not 100% sure how old he is, but I've had him for about 3 years now, our buddy. He's a half boxer, half Australian Shepherd.
Oh, wow.
He's
Awesome.
such a good dog. Yeah, somebody was very mean to him, huh? Neglected him. When we first got him, I mean, you just raised your voice and he would roll over on his back.
People
He
who
was
do
scared.
that and
Oh, yeah.
pedophiles deserve exactly the same as far as I'm concerned. You touch a animal, then you're just scum.
Yeah, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you. You know,
You're not
in one way, I
wired right.
feel bad. I feel bad for you that you could actually do that and be okay with yourself. But in another way, I think you shouldn't be allowed to be around animals or children or anything like that. You need to be, they don't need to put drug addicts in prison. They need, to put the people that should be in. And I'm not saying that it should be prison like it is today. These people, I'm not saying they should be treated horribly. They should be treated with love and kindness. They just should not be allowed to be around things like children or dogs or.
Yeah, they should be in a sort of Hannibal Lecter cage. We'll give them a bit of love. We'll love them. Yeah, love it. No, I don't love people like that. I'm sorry. I'm not with you.
Inflicting pain is one thing, isn't it? Excuse me, sorry. Inflicting pain is one thing in that kind of sick way, whether it's for your own sadistic or sexual pleasures, whatever. But the kind of concept of doing harm, as we perceive it, to another human, another being, another entity, another life force, was another one of the things that some of the stuff you've said has made me ponder, Zach. And maybe rather than dwell on sickos, move it on to maybe you were talking about ingestion of products into us, and there's veganism, there's vegetarianism, there's people that eat certain meats. People were disgusted by the concept of eating other meats.
Hold on, Adam. I didn't get an answer to what I should do with me 5-year-old thing first. Come back to your meat in a bit, if you can.
Oh.
Zach, please tell me what to do with my concoction.
For about 2 weeks, I would keep it at least as warm as you have it, maybe a little bit warmer. Set it somewhere, maybe on top of your hot water heater or something like that, just to get it warm within your range. Shake it every day about the same time, 2 weeks. Put a little bit of yourself into it, tell it what you want it to do, tell it what you plan on doing with it and all that.
Right. That's
important too, while you're doing this. And then after that 2 weeks, like you said, you separate it out. You don't even have to dry it out. You can just start burning it instantly.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, because it's alcohol soaked already.
Yeah,
just set it on fire.
Right up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then some of it'll still be kind of black. You're not going to be able to burn it down to a white or a gray, all of it. So what you do then, you take your ashes and go ahead and put them in an oven at like 400 degrees or hotter for just until they start turning at least a light gray. You're hoping for white, but at least a light gray. And those are your crystals. That's the salt right there. And then you grind it back up, grind it down into a fine powder. You don't have to let it cool too much. Let it cool a little bit so it doesn't stay all sticky. Grind it back up, throw it back into your tincture, and do that again for 2 more weeks.
Can I interject there just for a second, guys? On practicality point of view, 400 degrees is quite a temperature, and it's a hard thing to attain, isn't it, on a kind of commercial oven? The bits that I'd looked into was kind of almost barbecuing this kind of thing in a metal pan and taking it to the extremes of temperature. And I'm looking for learning here, because my oven ain't got. Are we talking Fahrenheit here, or again?
Yeah, Fahrenheit.
Well, when you think about it, Adam, barbecuing, it's not a bad analogy, because what you're left with when you barbecue the charcoal is white powder, isn't it, Zach? I mean, it's literally it's there isn't anything other than white powder by the end of a charcoal burn. So yeah, you could be onto something there, Adam.
Well, by my understanding, then I'm kind of wrong, because my comprehension was that you would take those solid matter residues, and once you've extracted as much you can, you're left with my brain's gone Zach, which element it is, but you're going to try to want to purify the body.
The salt.
The salt. Thank you. I knew I was going to get mixed up here. I tried to write them down quickly to interchange, but so you're going to kind of want to purify that. And the bits of other research I've done was people really incinerating them at much higher temperatures, like 400 degrees, over really hot coals in hot pans. So you were taking it down to really the crudest base elements that fire can bring to what remains.
It really makes me respect the medieval alchemists that had to try to do these things, because some of these things, like when you start dealing with metals and things like that, you want to keep it at this. Instead of keeping it at the 25 to 40 degrees Celsius, you want to keep it at 250 degrees Celsius for a month.
Wow.
I couldn't even, could you imagine trying to do that? And there's ways of doing it. You can surround it with sand and
bellows action there, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's work. That is a lot of work. Those are the alchemists who have, people working for them.
And this is the things that modern, or that the history we've presented would have you believe the alchemists were there fraudulently, constantly performing this theatre of what they were doing in this fraudulent way to extract money from these foolish lords and lairds. Do you know what I mean? The reality of human life is that couldn't happen. That again, that insight kind of helps realign the myths we're told, doesn't it? In terms of actually, maybe they were there keeping it at 250 degrees for weeks.
Well, who were the famous alchemists? I mean, we're talking Newton, we're talking John Dee, we're talking... I mean, these were the people who were employed. I mean, Newton was the head of the Royal... whatever the hell they're called, Society. And John Dee was personal assistant to royalty as well. These aren't your Russell Grants on This Morning.
They're what we're left with of history, aren't we? But we do know they were trained in the alchemical arts. That's the only thing we do know.
Well, Newton was way more of an alchemist, wasn't he, than a astronomer, a scientist, or whatever. His notes. What do you know about Newton then, Zach?
Oh, he died. I know he died playing with mercury, trying to get the oil of mercury, which they say is one of the trickiest because it's in that liquid form already, and it's messing with any metal, they say, is very dangerous. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing and you're not very well practiced, then you shouldn't even dabble with. I don't plan on playing with at least for another 15, 20 years probably.
Yeah, right. I'll remind you of that.
Yeah.
I know you with your electricity.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years. If I'm like, I'm going to go get some ore from down the road.
I'm going to go stick my finger in that thing.
Guys, before we progress, and you heard my kind of trepidation at using some of the terms, there's kind of 3 principles that maybe are worth defining for the listeners just before we proceed a little bit into some of the, and I really want to get onto some of these scientific principles within alchemy in a bit, but I think
as long as we go back to finishing off my plantain 5-year-old thing and how to actually turn it into something useful. Carry on.
That exact principle is contained specifically within some of the requests I've got for Zach. It's a process down the line, John, which I think, as Zach alluded to there, what you've got is what, patience is a great thing in alchemy, and by perchance, as Zach surprise said, you've created something that patience can't give you. You've got something that's got years of saturation in it, and that's part of the concept, which I want to kind of get into. But like I say, if we could just maybe, and I beg a favour, is that because I'm a bit nervous at maybe, would you please kind of roughly define the three principles within this?
Oh, the spirit, body, and soul.
Yeah, and how that then relates to the plants and its constituents. And
okay, you're gonna have to think of it this way now. Everything, plants, animals, and the minerals, the rocks, they all have as much of a conscience as we do. I know that's so hard to comprehend, but everything has a conscience, everything has a soul. And now I've questioned on how far this breaks down. Does every cell have a soul? Say, do the buildings, the skyscrapers we build, do they have souls? I don't know where it starts or where it ends, but we'll just start with nature. Everything in nature, the plants, rocks, animals, everything we see, it has a soul. Now this soul, there's a reason they can't find this in science today. They're always looking for where's the soul at in the brain, or where in the DNA. They can't find the soul. It's because the soul is in a different, I guess you could say, dimension. Maybe there's 4 dimensions according to ancient alchemical texts, like by Paracelsus and the green emerald tablets of Hermes Trismegistus, which is one of the oldest writings that we know of. It says that your soul is in one of these other dimensions, that Earth is a realm here, and there are 4 dimensions all stacked on top of each other, and it's all a big pile of electric soup. And this realm vibrates within these ranges, and then the other realm is vibrating within other ranges. So we can't even comprehend or see, our senses do not pick up any of these other realms. Maybe that's what ghosts are, or things like that. Maybe there are electrical phenomena that happen in between the realms or dimensions, to where you can actually peer into another realm for a moment. Maybe that's, I'm not sure what's happening, but it's all electricity. Everything is electricity. And the soul is in one of these other realms, they say, okay? I like to put it as, say you're sitting at home, and the world you're in, the realm you're in, that's where the souls reside, okay? Now, you're getting ready to go play a video game, and you pick up the controller and turn on the little box, and that's what we would consider to be your Mercury, your spirit. That is what it's going to connect your soul that is sitting there to your body or your soul in the matrix world, in that other realm, that other dimension. So when you turn on the game and everything, and you have your little character inside the video game, that would be us in the world right now, kind of. And our soul is in another realm. Like you're sitting here, and the video game it's still in this dimension or in this realm, but it's in a different dimension. It's not something like your soul can't go and reach in there and touch things. You can touch things with your body that has been created for you. In that, is that kind of making sense?
Yeah, totally.
So that's how I break apart the soul, the spirit, and the body, and everything has that. Now the soul is, like I said, it's something that can't be seen, it can't be found, you can't measure it. But now the spirit, you can. The word spirit, like when you go to the liquor store and it says beer, wine, spirit, that's where that word comes from, because all the plants have alcohol within them. The spirit is the divine power. It's pure energy. That's why it's like alcohol. It's, power. We can use it to move. We can use it to explode things. Alcohol is there's a lot of energy in it, trapped inside of it. And they say that's your spirit. And every plant has it. We have it. The rocks have it. And that's
Zach,
what connects.
can I interrupt a sec just for a point of learning for me? Just
Absolutely.
as you're speaking there, you're describing that, and we alluded to John's brew. Is that why time's important for the habitation of spirit to really occur within the mixture?
I'm not 100% sure, because they say, like when I did mine, they said to do it for 1 month. You know, you do it for 2 weeks and then you filter it. You do it for 2 more weeks, you filter it out, and then you have your tincture. Something told me, that's what I love about alchemy. There is no set. You do what you think you should. Listen to that little thing inside you. You know, don't. That's what I was gonna finish telling you after I told you how I would do it. Now, whatever you think you should do, John, when we get through with this, that's what you really should do.
That's what annoys me. I'm an IT. I'm a right brainer. I need instruction. You know, but then again, I'm also a chef, and the only way I've never followed a recipe to the T in my life, or if I have, then I've subsequently changed the recipe to make it better. I rarely follow those sort of guidelines, but yeah, so maybe that is something that will blossom in me once I understand in order to be a good cook, you have to understand what you're doing. You have to understand why you're salting a steak, or for the vegetarians, doing something else. You're blanching them or steaming them or whatever. You're capturing the essence of the plant inside it, or not cooking at all, eating raw and that sort of thing. It's understanding what you're doing before you go playing. I mean, I played with cooking long before I became a cook, and with appalling outcomes. So I don't want to do the same with something I've got that I want to do it right. So like you, I want to read the books. I want to know that I'm on the right track. But yeah, tell me more, Zach.
Well,
tell me more.
John, real quick. John, have you ever done any baking?
No, I don't eat desserts, so I don't tend to cook anything sweet. But my wife does baking all the time. But yeah, why, Josh?
It's one of those things that requires a bit of accuracy in cooking. How about chocolate? Have you worked with any chocolate? Well, no, you said no sweet.
Nah.
Science, baby.
Chocolate, that's why I like cooking. It's such a great combination of science and art that it really allows me to have a nice little outlet in that way. But yeah, chocolate, you can only, heat up to a certain temperature to keep the glaze, keep it nice and shiny. I mean, there's such an intricacy to working with sugars and chocolates. Or when it comes to baking, you don't just get to use that gut instinct type of recipe creation that you can.
I've heard that, and I think that's probably what puts me off baking, is that it's too clinical. It's too, if you put too much yeast in, or too much this, or the temperature, you didn't bring it up to 25 degrees, you brought it up to 27, and this sort of thing is something that puts me off.
Nope, I'm the same way. I mean, you can add too much salt. You can, there's ways around that.
Yeah, you can lemon juice it out, Uh-huh. There's ways back. I think that's what annoyed me, or put me off the baking side of things, is because if you cock it up to any degree, then it's cocked up, full stop.
Well, think about creating recipes on the fly. I'm a big fan of garlic. So it just sort of depends on what dish I'm making as to just how huge of amount of garlic I'm going to use. But
Likewise. On that note, I'll tell you what. Talking about garlic,
but before we get off track, I'm just going to say you have good
Yeah.
instinct. When you're making a recipe, you have that instinctual, that knowledge base. You've mucked it up for so long experimenting as a cook. Now that you're doing it, you know how much to add and how much not to add.
yeah.
So it's that very gut reaction. You just have that feeling. You know when you put it in your hand when to stop.
That's it. It's instinct, isn't it? It's instinct over anything
but
else.
You've
Right,
kept it
so-
around for 5 years. I mean,
Let's
just
pull you all back on.
Get your
Hey.
devil fingers out of the screen.
No one else can see them.
I was coming around to it, Adam.
Yeah.
That's his instincts, though. He's got that patience. He's had it for 5 years. He's got good instincts to have just even prepared it and kept it around for 5 freaking years. I can't keep much of anything around for more than 2 or 3.
I'm just lazy. It's under my bed, mate. It's something to get round to. I thought I'd botched it and it would be like jelly and.
I've got these that have been sitting here. I don't know if you can see them, but those are my 7 basics. I mean, here's the ones that are in the jars, but that's the rest of it, and it's been up there for about 5.5 years now.
Sweet.
Just sitting there waiting.
Why though? Deliberately or because you haven't got round to it?
I filled the jars up, and then I'm still taking them. Because the way you take since I made 7 of them, it's just 1 for each day, and at first it was just 3 drops a day. So it's not very. When you have a 4-ounce bottle, 3 little drops out of it, it didn't take long. Now I'm up to 36, and I'm almost out. But I just started taking them again. Like I quit taking them because I had made them out of vanity, and I really don't care what my hair looks like anymore. So I'm not really. I just wanted to see what would happen. I was trying.
Share that story though. That's an awesome story. It blows my mind.
Yeah, do. Let's hear that start to finish. It's brilliant.
I started reading this book, that Alchemy, Real Alchemy, Primer of Practical Alchemy by Robert Allen Bartlett. And from right away, just reading the foreword and the introduction, it really, really touches me. I don't read the introduction too many times. I didn't even read it until that last one I did, because I get emotional. But the foreword I love, and it's just, it said something to me, when it tells you, that little voice might tell you to try it. And then as I read into the book deeper, I realized that this is easy. I can do this with mason jars and some nylons, and already have all the plants that I need growing out in my garden. Because I'd been gardening for a couple of years, just to, learn to make my own food. I wanted to be independent. And I started talking to my plants, because that was my whole thing. I wanted to grow my hair back right from the get-go. That was my whole thing about making these. It said, you can put yourself into it and kind of ask the plants what you want them to do. So I'd sit out there in my herb garden, and I use beets, I use basil, parsley, borage, marigolds, spearmint, and I forget the other one. I feel bad now. Lettuce, fireleaf lettuce.
I'll tell you what though, Zach. Sorry to butt in. I'll get you back on track in a second. But you're describing it as a vanity thing about growing your hair back. I would just put in there that your hair is part of your body, and it's also said to be with the Native American Indians and things, that the hair is like antenna, like a link to what you were talking about earlier. So it may not have been entirely narcissistic of you to be asking for your hair back. It may be to complete a link to the more spiritual side of the things that you're clearly in touch with. Just a sideline there.
Either way, it's a good baseline experiment. Is my more.
Well, yeah, I wanted to have
analytical
something that I could
point of
see
view.
too. I wanted to do something that I could actually, if I wanted to say I want you to clean out my liver or, clean out my kidneys,
Exactly.
I could never go and see it. Yeah. So yeah, but actually, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was vanity. I wanted my hair ever since it started falling out. I mean, I had big, long, curly hair, and the girls loved it. What can I say? I miss that. But now it doesn't bother me not having my hair and all that. So I would talk to my plants every day when I was out there watering them. This was when I was really getting into gardening. I had my first good season, and then this next season I knew what I was doing, and I put in the time and the effort, like hours and hours and hours, working a different schedule. So I had only worked 3 days in a row, and then I'd have a couple off, work 2 days, and then have a couple off. It was perfect for gardening. And my plants did awesome, but I kept asking them, or I kept telling them, it would be so cool if you guys could help me grow my hair back. That would just be, I would be so grateful. And then the time came, and I even felt bad. It was weird. I felt bad when I was clipping them, to make my tinctures. I was like, I hope that this works. I hope you're making this sacrifice for a reason, this and that, yada, yada, yada. And as I dried them out, and then I love the book because it doesn't tell you how much plant to use. It doesn't tell you how much alcohol to use. So this is where you're going to have a problem, John. There is no, it says do it maybe 2 or 3 fingers above where your plant's, stopped in the mason jar. That's what they tell you.
Yeah, I can handle that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of here or there. You put in however much you think you should. And then every day, I'd get up in the morning. As soon as I'd get up, that's the first thing I'd do. I'd go over to all 7 of them, say, how you doing and all that. Hi. I used to tell them good morning, but I don't say good morning anymore. Just because of wordplay and the word morning, how it has the 2 meanings. I don't care for the other meaning. I'm not mourning the nighttime leaving or the sun coming.
Interesting.
I'm happy about it coming. But besides, we'll get on. But I'd always, I'd welcome my plants to the new day. Hey, after I had made them, dried them out and put the alcohol in there and shaking them up every day. And then when I got to the 2 weeks, it told me to, it was time to do this. Something said, no, we're not ready yet. And I just had this feeling. I was like, okay, I'll do it for, instead of doing it for just 2 weeks, we'll triple the time and we'll do it for 6 weeks. I don't know why I picked the triple. That's just what popped into my head. So I stuck with it. So for 6 weeks, every morning I'd get up, say hi, how you doing? I hope you grow my hair back. That'd be really cool. I really didn't get into the whole we're going to be united. I wasn't thinking about them as being alive yet. I hadn't had that epiphany yet, that realization that once I thought, once I killed the plant, that because, yeah, you may have killed that plant then, but as you start making something new, you're giving it a soul again and, a spirit. You're recombining them to make a new being. So I was talking to a new being, thinking that they were the old being still. It's a learning process. I didn't do any of the astrology that I should have done. I didn't, because I was not aware that all of these lights are a lot closer. I thought, one was 900 million miles away, and I thought, well, how could that affect my plant? Or how could it affect me? So it's the whole astrology thing and alchemy, even though the book told me it was important, for some reason, I think it was my mindset. I hadn't grown enough yet. I was still thinking I was on a spinning ball, and it just didn't work for me. So I didn't do it. I didn't even apply any of it.
A lot of that learning that comes with kind of accepting some of the alchemy is I think probably very individualized. And so I want to get into specifically the thing that kind of blew my mind when starting to research this stuff. But before I just want to pull back to your tinctures before we leave them.
Yes, please.
And for me, I've heard this story a couple of times, and what I feel is I understand why they're in a box, because you're done with them. They were of a time, and the way part of their composition was your request, and that's why they're in a box, because that request is no longer desired necessarily. So even if you were going to grow your hair back now, it would be encompassed with other more relevant ideals in your life now for that tincture to help you. Does that?
Yeah, actually, Adam, you're spot on. I was thinking about actually germinating these all again, putting them on in my new incubator here that I just made, and starting the process all over again. Saying, "Hey guys, it's me again. It's been a while, but I'm going to ask you to do something else now. We're going to grow our hair back again, but it's going to be to help show people that this is real. There's real power in alchemy."
Oh, I like the sound of that.
I get. So there's one more bit I want to add to that, and it was something you alluded to in terms of good morning and stuff, and that's when I was talking to Martin about the verbalization of your feelings to the plant. I don't think necessarily you need to verbalize stuff. I think just to enjoy them, you don't need to say good morning. If you go out to them and that's what you do is look at them in the morning and they feel the joy, they'll pick up on what you need in life, what you really need. You might end up taking the neck tincture thinking you'll grow your hair back. But if you haven't verbalized it, you might end up with I don't know, whatever.
What I really
was going to say something lewd.
Snakes.
I refrained.
I don't physically, verbally talk to my plants. I talk to them in my head and try and, portray that to them through touching them and that sort of thing. And for a scientific bloke, I'm way out on the fringe here, but I go on results, and I know that positive thinking yields good results, so I can't ignore that, and it's worth experimenting with all the time, I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I talk to mine out loud now. I didn't when I was making these. It was more of a, like you said, you just speak to them in your head. But now I do. Now I don't know. I've grown because I've always talked to my animals, and now it just kind of went over to the plant too.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But what I'm saying is, it may not be necessary. It's like you say, Adam. It's what you're genuinely feeling. What you're you're not faking it. You're not just sort of brushing an arm past it. Love your plant. See ya. You're actually genuinely feeling it and trying to portray it to the plant. So on that note, once I've got my white powder from the plant matter, then what do I do?
Okay.
Because surely nylon stockings, it goes through the nylon stockings, doesn't it? Like, you'll get a load of soot and stuff in your alcohol. No?
No, not too bad actually. Well, this time after you put that fine soot in there, when it's sitting in the alcohol, even after you shake it a little bit, it's still, the granules kind of clump up. They're not all clumped up, but they tend to actually, let's see, the one on Wednesday, my Wednesday, which one is that? It is a little bit cloudy. Spearmint. It always has been, even in the dropper bottle. You can see, look how like dingy that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now here, watch the we'll do Thursday's basil.
Oh yeah.
A little bit cleaner. I need to run a little bit of stuff through it. And then borage is even much cleaner.
Oh yeah.
So it really depends on the plant. some of them. I mean, you can see a little bit of the residue in there.
I mean, maybe it depends on the filtering process as well. I mean, maybe nylon stockings aren't the way forward. Maybe the...
Well,
I mean,
the
what
last
I've
one,
got...
I used the coffee filter.
Okay,
At the
yeah.
very end, I used the coffee filter.
I use that for colloidal silver, and it does the job. But what I was thinking, I bought some... I can't remember what the hell I bought them for, but it goes down to something like 0.4 microns. And it was probably brewing or something along those lines, but they were sacks of sort of fuzzy white stuff that guarantees, or says you can get them down at 1 micron or whatever. Maybe it's the filter process that's making it a bit cloudy. But so how many times do you repeat the process of when you say you repeat the process, what does that mean? So you drain the alcohol from the body, and then add the body back into it again, and
after you burn it the one time, then you add it back in, shake it up again, because what you're doing when you burn the body is you're getting rid of all the impurities. You're trying to break it down to just the salt.
Got it.
So as you're burning away all the bad stuff, you're trying to leave just that salt in there, and then you add it back in to get out the little bit of that was left in there that the impurities might have been blocking you from getting to.
Okay, I've got you.
Now,
and then
and the more you do it, the better. I mean, when you start getting into the ends tinctures, they say you do this, a 1 month process, but you do it 7 to 12 times.
But when you say 7 to 12 times, what are you doing 7 to 12 times?
The ends tincture, you're actually adding more plant to it, and then going through this process every month.
So you're adding new ash to it, or whatever, or
the whole new plant.
I've got you. So another 5 years down the line, I could have something really nice. I got you. Okay, that didn't make sense to me as how you redid it again and again. I thought you refiltered the solids that you'd already used again and again. But okay, so I'll go out and I'll get a load more plantain, and I'll then use this liquid to marinate it in for another 5 years, and so on. Okay. Plantain. I hope it's a good thing. I can't remember why I did it, but
I think there's levels of that repetition that's required, and I think there's levels of filtration that's required. But as Zach alluded to, I think the key, John, there isn't a key. It's what feels right for that particular thing you're making.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't.
Let it tell you when it's ready.
A recipe.
Yeah. Considering I've forgotten why I used plantain, then it needs to tell me what the hell it's good for.
But before we move on to something else, and I do want to bring it back to a little bit of modern science and the thing that Josh,
me too.
Are we having a break, or because we're at 1.5 hours, are we having a tune and grab a drink, or should we plow on, bro?
It's whatever.
Well, sorry, Josh.
I was going to say we still have another story we need to finish up. We never did hear all of Zach's hair growth story.
Yeah.
Right, and on that note, I'll end this spagyrics thing, or spagyric, or however you pronounce it, by just saying that what we're taught, if you go out and buy a herbal book or whatever, modern day, Good Housekeeping herbal remedies book, or if you're even surfing on the net, what we're told, yes. That's it. Nice glossy cover, big hardback, lovely. Yeah.
All bright pictures.
Yeah. Utterly bloody useless unless used in conjunction with at least 6 or 8 other books. I would just say that pharmaceuticals only deal in the extraction process. They don't deal with the body or anything else of the plants, and these books only generally deal with the extraction process. They don't tell you anything more, or if they do, it's just lip service. So really what you're getting is half the story, and as a result, I don't know, are you getting useless stuff if you're just soaking it in alcohol, draining it and drinking it, or is that, I mean, is it I mean, it's clearly diminished compared to the whole using the body part of it. That's what I'd end this on, is that beware, buyer beware. Those books are absolute crap. Most of what you're told is absolute crap. Unless you're doing the whole process, then you know you might as well be just drinking alcohol.
The book that Real Alchemy book puts it like this. It's like a 3D picture. You know, one eye, you see the picture. It looks great, you know, on this one side. The other eye, you see the exact same picture. And it looks beautiful, same picture, you know, everything. But not until you combine the two do you actually see the whole picture, and does it actually, the magic take place. So if you're just doing the chemistry side of it, then you'll get some effect out of it. You know, it'll paint a beautiful picture for you. If you're just doing the spiritual side of it, and like a placebo effect type thing, you know, placebos have had wondrous effects on people just by them thinking that it's, you know, something's working.
Yeah.
Now, if you combine the two, the spiritual and the physical, then you see more of a picture. You know, you get more out of it. So it's really what you put into it.
Supercharges it, doesn't it? It's
yeah.
It brings the whole.
John, it's the rice experiment, mate. For me, it's this learning of the. We talked, didn't we? Do we know what an electron is? Do we know? No, we don't. We know we have cause and effect, and we've got models that we think work really well for us. And the thing that I've learned, and the thing I'm going to get onto eventually, is these models are concepts that actually, if you start to look into alchemy, and there is a lot more detail and evidence for us to ponder that suggests the concept of even the basic chemistry that I understand can be affected. It doesn't disrupt the models I have, but it disrupts or adds additional ways in which the models I understand can be affected and manipulated, both with the power of the mind, but also in ways in which, from a biochemical point of view, modern science wouldn't even dare to suggest.
Yeah, because it enters into the realms of pseudoscience for them.
Well,
but
maybe
results,
I'll find that now.
Results speak to results, you know. And I love the way Zach described it as the 3D view of it. You know, a 2D. Someone with one eye can still see, but they can't see as well as someone with two eyes, or is in the same way as someone with two eyes. And this is what it sort of does, doesn't it? It sort of closes the circle of being in the knowledge of how to use these plants. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I've never ever seen anyone describe making cannabis oil in the way that you're describing in the spagyrics way, where you use the body as well. Sorry, Adam. Is someone at the back laughing?
Yeah, I tell you what, mate. When I made that for my dad, if I reflect back now, every moment that I invested in sitting there in the shed doing that, it was the amount of emotion and love and thought process as I was doing each mundane action.
Yeah.
It was wholly alchemical from what I'm learning, you know. And this is when we say 250 hours at 200 degrees, it's not just 250 hours at 200 degrees. It requires the application for full. And maybe this is the more deeper concept, but it's the kind of concept that I'm, with some of the proofs and the stuff I'm reading, I'm really honestly opening my mind up to the impact that we can have on this process. And
Yeah, positive
that's
thinking.
applicable in so many other fields. And I think it's
testable as well. It's observable and testable too.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing for me. You know, it sounds like it's woo, but if it works, just because you don't know how it works or why it works doesn't mean it doesn't work. So that if it's testable and you can observe it, then it passes the scientific method as far as I can see, whether we can explain it or not. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, the one of the godfathers of chemistry, he liked to be called Paracelsus. I forget his real name, but he had a lot of trouble trying to convince people that the spiritual part was just as important as the material world. They say the Egyptians supposedly knew this very well. Their priest, when they gave out medicine, they also gave you an incantation to say and a certain time to take it. You know, it was all about these subtle energies and all these different things and the vibration of the noises that you make speaking to it, and it would activate it in a certain way and this and that. The Indians of North America here would chant while they are doing their healing rituals and things like that and applying medicine. And it just dawned on me the other day that that's what they were doing. They were applying the spiritual part of it, the vibrational part of it. They were adding them to the medicine.
The intention.
Exactly. And it does something to it. You know, it makes it that much more powerful. Like I said, it's both eyes open then. It's not just the one eye. The medicine will still work a little with the one eye.
It's easy to identify. It's the bit that's ridiculed by modern society. It's the wise woman. It's the shaman. It's all of those things. It's noticeable that you're foolish if you think it's not a ball. You're foolish if you think your positivity or anything, you can change that right.
From anything from the norm. Yeah, this isn't, alchemy isn't for the Globers at all. You know, it's not a step that they can't take that step yet.
Unless you're Newton. Sir Isaac, of course, who was all about alchemy, but that's since been hidden by the Newton archives or something.
Oh yeah, they don't want anybody to know about alchemy. It's not something that's, talked about really. I never heard of alchemy when I was in school. Even in chemistry class, they might have mentioned it for, one sentence.
I was going to say, even if you did hear the word alchemy, it was often synonymous with chemistry. And it was just, and you already knew, well, most of us did, Adam, that chemistry was utterly boring and useless and as interesting as history, because that's what it was trained into us to believe.
Yeah, well, alchemy, for those that were interested in chemistry, alchemy was taught to as geeks as quackery, as nonsense, as people wanting to turn lead into gold.
Yeah, voodoo.
Well, it's essentially
a folly of rich people.
It was essentially what astrology was to astronomy. Mm-hmm. When you're taught astronomy in school, you're taught that astrology is woo. It's quack stuff. Where in reality we're sort of seeing 180 degrees the opposite.
Yeah, I was going to equate it with the flat Earth and to how it was presented to me as a child. It was very much along the same line,
Bingo. There you go.
Earthers were stupid. They were crazy. And all it took was a little bit of common sense and some bravery on the part of Christopher Columbus to do a little extra sailing to prove that they didn't fall off the edge of the Earth, because flat Earthers are stupid dopes. And then there were these other guys who thought that they could just take cheap lead, abundant everywhere, and turn it into gold because they're just a bunch of crazy, greedy bastards because they're just trying to get free money. They just got all these crazy ideas that they just thought if they could do some special magical incantation that it's going to somehow transmute lead into something valuable. And that's all they were after. They were just trying to get rich.
That's an
You know what the
awesome
crazy
analogy.
part is, though? The crazy part is that a pope and a king of England both banned alchemy because they were scared that the making of gold would allow for someone to build up an army to fight against them or disrupt their economy.
And that's just such a beautiful, beautiful story to hide the real reason why they got rid of it. We had to get rid of it because of they were going to make money and we were scared of wars and nonsense. It's part of that Reformation. We don't know anything more than 200 years, do we? Let's be honest.
Would I be right in saying, though, that no one in history has ever been able to turn a base element or whatever into another base element or gold into gold? Although I heard, I heard recently that someone recently has claims to.
This is what I wanted to bring up. So let me transition, and this is the thing that made me change my way of my understanding of physiology, chemistry, etc. And it makes sense now. Give me a second. Let me just switch the screens, and I've got up here the and this is courtesy of Crow 777, wasn't it, Josh? This is the Practical Handbook of Plant Alchemy by Manfred Junis.
I do believe that's correct.
Yeah,
I believe that's where we got that.
So this is what threw me onto this, Zach. And within the many things that grip me, and we'll stick it on the realm to look at. The thing that grasped me, John, was, bear with, something that...
Kill your mouse already.
Yeah, she's a squeaky soul. She needs some WD-40, poor lass.
I see some in the background right there.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah, I got a good eye.
Don't do it, Adam. Don't do it.
I'm not doing it live. Something will go on here, but
big puff of smoke and
lights flicker. Everything goes dark. Been another Flat Earth Friday.
I'm going to go on a bit of a ramble, and the purpose of the ramble is because this is how it hit me as I read this text, and we learn a lot of statistical nonsense in medical school, and one of the things that always struck me with my brother being of Indian origin. I say brother, he's my brother, you know. Shout out to Vid. He's not a flat earther, but he is my bro. And so personal things stick with you more necessarily. And I always feared for him during my medical training that as a poor Indian boy coming over to Western society, his diet would preclude him or make him more susceptible to coronary heart disease and other associated risks due to his much more natural salt intake. And that kind of made me look at all these biological processes behind this, and looking at when British forces go abroad, soldiers, and I assume for American, they're given salt tablets in areas of high heat, which helps the body cope. And we're always taught that this is because the kidneys have got to work harder, otherwise you'll deplete your natural salts and minerals, etc. So we give these oral rehydration salts, and that's always kind of made sense, but not really necessarily for a transition from one part of the globe to another to create such significant differences if that was the only mechanism via kidney function. So I started reading this, and I'll take a sip of wine, and if you'll indulge me, I'll read it from a little bit way back, because it kind of makes the same point but from a different era.
You're going to start with the forward?
No, good God, no. And the point of this is it really did change my paradigm in terms of comprehending how marvelous the human body actually probably is, and why I jumped in, John. It's a great example of transformation of one element into another, which is not something I've ever seen in modern medicine, but is in this, fairly aged by modern times text, both supported in a alchemical way, because that's what he's supposing, but more importantly, supported with modern chemistry in terms of basic comprehension. It requires a little leap of faith, but everything does, doesn't it? Anyway, during half my life in India, I was never seriously ill, which may be attributed to a healthy way of life, adapted to Indian conditions and the Ayurveda. For a long time, I could not find a completely satisfactory explanation for the frequent use of salt. The often heard assertion that it was merely a replacement for the secretion of lost salts and substances did not satisfy me, if only for the reason that sea salt does not contain all physiologically necessary salts and trace elements. Only the study of alchemy, more exactly of biological transmutations, could throw some light upon the problem. Now, a few words about this. When the biologist Dr. L.C. GRRRREAT was an official mission in the Sahara in 1959, he observed that those technicians and workmen, who were preserved from heat stroke and exhaustion, even at erroneous temperatures, and while working extensively, all took large amounts of sea salt, mostly from the form of tablets. These tablets had been distributed to the British Armed Forces in India during the colonial times. Repeated investigations by Dr. GRRRREAT, which were also confirmed by other researchers, proved that the perspiration of the workers contained a very high percentage of potassium. That's important. After taking the salt tablets, which contain sodium. Table salt, however, is sodium chloride, not potassium. What has happened to the sodium? It had changed into potassium within the organism and could be later be detected in the perspiration in the already mentioned high amounts. This process uses up calories. Salt brings a certain freshness. It protects you from exhaustion and great heat, hence the cooling effects, an endothermic process. And that slapped me in the face like a big wet fish.
So can you summarize what it's saying?
Yeah.
That the body is turning salt into potassium or something.
Yeah, I'll probably read it a little bit more, because it'll probably help me define it a little bit more. But it comes down to this formula here and this pertinent point here, an endothermic process. And we know an exothermic process is something where heat is given out, and the reaction itself gives you an output of energy. That's where we take a lot of modern power sources from. But what this is suggesting is that within the biological system, the reaction that's taking place is endothermic, and by definition there, it requires the input of energy into the system being the body. And in doing so, it's eliciting this reaction you see in front of me, which is sodium plus oxygen, which is why we breathe the stuff in, actually makes potassium. And there, John, is your transformation, your alchemical transformation. The heat, the energy source is, as we know, the sun. The body temperature, which is derived from the sun, but
can that be
the
done?
Excess temperature within the body.
Can that be done in a lab?
This has been done. I have no idea. Let's not stray off the purpose. So this is the proposed process, which, like I say, holds sway to me in understanding the mind blown moment is that what we're suggesting is within the cellular process as a compensatory mechanism for absorbing all this extra heat, which is, let's be, what the body does is take in the oxygen which is feeding the cells, but not only does that delivery of oxygen, it gives a much greater purpose to the delivery of oxygen. Not only as we all oxygen goes into the lungs, it's transported by the cells to the cells. What the fuck does it do with it after that? What this is suggesting, here's an additional, and I would suggest this is a ancillary service. This is a compensatory mechanism in times of extreme circumstances. So this is just one of the magnificent things that the alchemical process suggests the body can do, and in times of extreme load. So it takes in the oxygen as well, and the excess sodium that's in the body, it uses that excess solar heat that's coming in, converts that energy to elicit a reaction between the sodium ions and the oxygen to transmutate those into potassium.
So is potassium an element? K?
Yeah, that's K. Yeah, sorry, that's the K, yeah.
So it's
This is the other thing. If you look at Na is sodium, these are all from the alchemical names, natrium. Yeah, and this is why we have it there.
Sorry, Zach, let us know what you think about what we're talking about here.
It even says it on there. It's all about electricity. It all the number of electrons, they say. There are electrons. I don't subscribe to the whole atoms and with protons and nuclei with electrons going around them. I've never seen that.
We're on the same page there then.
That's kind of a globe to me, What I do know is that it's all electricity. It's vibrating at certain rates, and if you, like you said, when you connect these two vibrations, you have your oxygen vibrating at a certain, and you have your sodium. Maybe when they combine, that vibration, the two of them resonate together at a certain way. There's some connection there, and then now they're vibrating at a different rate, and we call that potassium.
Yeah, I think it's a bit. I alluded to it earlier. Models are very interesting, and me and John had a good ding dong. Was it last week, John? Weren't it? With regard, he chuckled there in terms of, I've never seen an electron, and neither have I.
I forgot about an hour after that conversation. Yeah. So
well,
remind me.
When the scientific method breaks down, where we can't have certainties, what enables us to go forwards and experiment more is to use models. And as long as those models are held valid, they're useful to us to continue to make other experiments which will help us define what we know scientifically. But we can also use them to create technology, and Spirurgics is technology because we don't necessarily understand it fully scientifically, but we use the technology we get from it to benefit us.
We need to pronounce it properly. How do we pronounce it?
Spirurgics, I think.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. You could have been right.
Yeah. So with you boggy, you put me off there.
Oh, sorry, bud.
pronunciation, man. Honestly, shocking.
Spajura.
Yes.
Sorry.
I can't
Sorry
say it now.
But no, we were talking about electrons.
So let me explain. So so I'm back. So with regards to models, okay, this is what has really blown my mind. The alchemical and the standard chemical processes all work within the scientific things where we can kind of sort of define the atomic weight of things or assign a value, a proportional relationship value to other things with them, and they all fit within the models that they use. And when we interwork both modern chemistry and this kind of chemistry, they all work equally well. And that's the point I want to make. There isn't some kind of contradiction here
they could be right
in this chemistry, in using the models we have, whether you can see that electron spinning round, or if as I scroll down you can see it a little more crude, or if you even go back to the old 1800 models where we don't have electrons orbiting infinite space, but we have what's called the old current bun model, where the electrons are kind of stuck like currents on the outside of a bun of the neutrons and protons. But that kind of basic concept of how the balance of neutrons, electrons and protons work to make up valency, electrical charge differences which are measurable, and atomic mass, which is independent of valency and charge with regards to neutrons, all works within all of these models. You get here, look, 8 protons.
Valency is charge, though, isn't it? As far as I know. But by the way, we're not seeing what you're seeing.
No, but I think everybody else is. So.
Are they?
But I thought we were going to all get to see it this time around.
Oh, well, that requires Josh to come in and help me.
That requires 2 button presses.
Oh, well, wait there. If I
step, to remind you at the beginning, it just requires that extra step of sharing it with the Skype call. I know it's a pain in the ass. I know. I know it's easy to just say, well, F it. Look at it on YouTube.
Now I see what you're talking about.
It just needed the requirement to remind me. See, I've done it now, haven't I? Look, see? Stop being so polite. So this is the kind of old school 1920s thing without you. These are basic circles. They're not p orbitals, s orbitals, d orbitals, different ways of orbiting the center to reconfine energies that's required in theoretical mathematics. That's kind of irrelevant to this. What we're talking here is in more fundamentally balancing of energies, and the way they describe that balancing of energies is protons and electrons, positive, negative, yin, yang. This guy can have, iron can have either two yin or 3 yin, you know what I mean? And chlorine can only have 1 yang. This is kind of more the basic concept that we're talking within spirituality. It's almost a bit like when you're at school at GCSE level, you learn orbitals as 2, 8, 8, and that's all you learn. They go in 2 in the first shell, 8 in the next, 8 in the next. Then you go to A level and you go, oh no, it's not really that, it's 2, 8, 16, 8. And then you get, and actually we'll talk to you a little bit more, but then you go to higher degree level and it's actually, no, it's 1s2, it's 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3d10, or so on, it goes on. But then even more confused ways of describing it, but they're only ever a mathematical concept of trying to describe them in terms of mathematical energy for them to balance them in even more complex models.
But Adam, what can we...
They're not required in any of this. And the most basic ways that we all learn GCSE chemistry is the same basic, sensible ways that when we learnt it as kids actually resonated. When I learnt this, I didn't go, oh, that doesn't make sense. It made sense. It was plus, minus.
I know.
It was
I
like
love
being
it.
taught I want a
valences.
ball. I argued with the ball. I didn't argue with this in my heart as a child. I'm done rambling.
I was just going to say, what other organisation do we know that teaches you something as fact, and then you go up a grade and they teach you and they say, well, this isn't actually fact, this is what's true, and then you go up another grade and they say, well, what you learnt before wasn't fact at all, this is actually the truth. That's the only point I was going to make.
I would say that mortar boards are connecting.
Stop sharing your screen, Adam.
Tired of looking at that.
I'm just about. I was just switching it off, gentlemen, on the mainstream, but I'll pause for the viewers and respond to yourselves. There we go. There you go, guys. We're clear. Zach, what did you think of that? I don't know.
Yeah, me and chemistry didn't get along just because my chemistry teacher, it was pretty much math all over again in his class. We didn't get to play with a lot of stuff or do any experiments, anything neat. You know, he was all about count this. Yeah, exactly. Showing us stuff like that. And I was like, man, you wanted me to do math problems here. And I got straight A's in math. Math was so easy. And then he wanted me to take it home and do it and wanted me to do homework, math problems. And I told him to stick it. I got a C in chemistry because I did not turn in homework one time. He told my mom, oh, he would have had an A if he would have done one thing of homework.
I bet you passed every test, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I aced them all. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Zach.
Learning by osmosis, my favorite.
Something you said earlier struck a chord with me, is that this whole chemistry thing with the electrons, the neutrons, protons, and nucleus and everything is literally, as we're taught it, a heliocentric model. And that's what I've got a problem with. And I can see how it works if it's a vibrational thing or a frequency thing, but it's the whole little balls flying around other little balls.
My love of chemistry and love of learning that is actually one of my stumbling blocks to get through, just like NASA. It's like, okay, all those balls out there are reflected down to these little tiny balls. How does that work now? I had to just come up with a different electromagnetic version.
Oh, balls, isn't it? What do you reckon there, Zach?
Yeah, I'm not sure what, I don't know. I don't know. In alchemy, they call them the four forces, just like we have now, but it's fire, water, air. Well, fire, air, water, and earth. And that's your strong nuclear force. Your water is your weak nuclear force. Your air is your electromagnetic force. And then, of course, earth would be considered gravity, or what I like to call the electric field, and the current of the electric field.
So is there much ball porn in alchemy?
No, none at all. No, it's they just break it down to the three basics, pretty much. The soul, the spirit, and the body, which is your oil, which is your soul, your mind. Your alcohol of the plant or spirit is your mercury, and then your body or the matrix of the plant is the salt. And that's all there is.
It's quite simple as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Everything is made out of this with those four forces.
It's so similar to flat earth that it's just almost obvious that it's the simplicity that you'd never thought of, because you've never been taught that way, so you never would have thought of it. I mean, our whole lives have been indoctrination into spaghetti soup, that calculus and ridiculous theorems and formulas and everything, that when you break it down to spirit, soul, body, it just makes perfect sense, and as does flat Earth. Water finds its level, and we're not spinning. Sorry.
And everything has these things. You know, there's nothing left out nothing's left out. Everything here. Everything we can find.
When you say everything has these things like rocks and stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
One thing, I've had a conversation with my children since they were born in the last decade is, you know, what can't be melted by fire or heat. And, you know, I don't know if you know, but how do you answer that? I mean, I've said to them that nothing can't be, you know, even a diamond, the hardest thing or whatever we're told, can be melted into a dust or some sort of ash, like we were talking about earlier with charcoal. Is that right? Is that there's nothing that can't be melted by heat?
That's a good question. That's one of those you don't know until you know. You know, I'd love to have something where I could turn it to 5,000 degrees and just put a diamond in there and experiment and see what happens. And
See if
that
it
didn't work,
melts.
yeah, find one that's 10,000 degrees. You know, and
I think another way of probably looking at this from a more alchemical and probably also modern technology realizing this and replicating it is heat isn't necessarily, as you described, there's the four forces, and if you were to take pencil lead or coal or whatever, and you could apply heat to it all day long and you'd never get diamonds, but if for some reason you apply extreme pressure, then for some reason that changes the allotype from a 3-link bond within the carbons to a 4-link carbon bond, which forms a much more solid crystalline lattice, and that can't be attained by heat. Fire isn't necessarily the key to all alchemical stuff, I would suggest. I think there's other ways.
no, well, in alchemy, fire is even nuclear. You know, fusion. That is considered an alchemical fire now. The people playing around with the giant proton accelerators and all that kind of CERN, those are the alchemists of today. You know, those are the royal alchemists. They're making elements, they say. You know,
and is what they're describing that they're doing, is that accurate, do you think? Or is that just complete bullshit?
Yeah, I don't know. There, I have no clue. I have trouble believing any of that stuff that I hear coming out of there.
And also,
the machines are doing something. They're doing something for sure.
Yeah. Whether it's just sucking dollars, we don't know. But yeah, they're doing something. But
something, yeah.
Going out back to what you.
NASA? I don't know.
Yeah.
They do say there's some synthetic elements, though. And that's kind of how they claim that they make them, by smashing things together and seeing what they come up with.
Yeah, I downloaded an elementary table or a table of elements, whatever the hell they call it, and it was much more populated than the one I had at school. You know, 30 years ago there was I don't know, 100 elements or something. Now they've got all sorts of branches and boxes and pink things and weird stuff. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if I looked at something and it was called, you know, Stephen Hawking's or
John, let's go sideways. Stephen Hawkins, I'm sure I've seen something. He's getting launched into space.
Go sideways, mate. Go for it.
Fucking somebody find it somewhere, I'm sure.
Well, you talk, someone will find it.
It was like
Josh,
a
did
stage. Somebody
Stephen
find
Hawking have anything to say about that before he passed away?
To infinity and beyond.
And you take that to the bank.
Look for the
I
images.
concur.
I'm
Put
sure.
your devil horns away.
No, I'm sure that was that. That was like that was that wasn't that. That wasn't Gudtims4all.
That's all it takes. It's all it takes.
I'm not live. I was just thinking the image that came into my head when I saw it on the TV thing was there was a plaque in front of Newton's tomb in St Paul's or wherever Isaac Newton's tomb is. That was the news clip. It was in front of his epitaph, whatever his tomb thing is. I'm sure it's St Paul's, isn't it?
Would it be St Paul's?
No one found it.
Where else would he be buried?
It was in that one movie. If that's accurate, I don't
You're
know.
thinking Brown, John Brown, or bollocks. What's his name?
Oh, what was that guy's name? Tom Hanks was in it.
Bishop. Yeah, we're thinking of the same movie. Yeah, Dan Brown. But I'm just wondering, St Paul's. Would he more be somewhere else? Bishop,
I'll
something
take
with a
it back.
bishop in it.
Isn't there a tree there? A concrete tree? Like a big... And they have planets up around in the tree, and it's supposed to represent the apple falling on his head, and then the planets, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, it's weird.
Oh, that sounds like just the sort of crap they do, yeah. They'd plant an apple tree over his grave, so he had numerous apples falling on his grave.
It was inside a church, actually. This was inside of a church. And no, there are no apples in the tree. That's the one thing that's missing from the tree.
It's concrete. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
more. That's
Yeah.
that's even more.
In the movie. Oh, the one with Tom Hanks. Not Angels and Demons, but the one about... Yeah.
Dan. I said it a minute ago.
Yeah.
Dan
It is
Brown.
And yeah, I can't think of the first one for the life of me.
Can you see that screen?
Yeah.
The Da Vinci Code.
Stephen Hawkins.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
well
go.
done,
Thank
mate.
you. Thank you.
Stephen Hawkins's voice to be beamed into space at final send-off. Well, isn't all our voices beamed into space permanently? We're all uttering voice, frequencies or wherever. What's to stop our frequencies going into space?
Josh, can you read that? Can you read that out? Who's got a voice to read that out?
I guess I can. I'm really curious if they're really going to use Stephen Hawking's voice. I mean, they're going to use the clip I just played and beam that junk out into space, or they're just going to use that computer animated voice. They're just going to use the program that he uses.
To infinity and beyond.
I guess.
I never heard him speak before he was diagnosed with that illness. I've never heard any footage of Stephen Hawking or seen any
It's out
footage.
there.
And I can't find a paper.
It used to be out there.
55.
I don't know if it still is, but there used to be footage of him as a normal person back in the day because I was into his stuff early in my high school and college years.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. I can't find any of his physics papers, his college physics papers. They have all his astrophysics stuff where he did his after studies or whatnot.
Right, the flat universe stuff disappeared, right?
It disappeared totally. You can't find anything on it. And I want to know why one of the smartest men in history made a flat universe model saying that all the water was flat and the land is protruding out of it. You know, he had to make that for a reason. I mean, he wasn't dumb when he did that. He was a super genius at the age of 4 or 5. So yeah, why did he do that? And then all of a sudden he gets put into a chair and every computer voice starts talking about black holes and all this nonsense.
we need a link to his original documentation. I don't know if that's available on the internet or if anyone's got it, but if they could let us know, because what you're saying, what he was talking about a flat Earth, and then suddenly he ended up in a wheelchair with the longest record-breaking bout of ALS ever.
Guys, he's about read this. He's about to go down as the next figure in the Bohr model religion. He's the next prophet of Helios. Okay, he's about to be entombed between Sir Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin, mate, at Westminster Abbey. Yeah, he's part of
that's what I mean.
Paradigm.
Yeah, but
he's
that's
an
what I mean.
Part.
Did he talk about flat Earth? And if so, then we need a link to his original talkings. But also, damn, there's something else I was going to say. No, go.
Yeah, I believe he graduated in 1962 for his physics degree, and in 1965 with his astrophysics degree. I can find lots of papers that he wrote from 1965 on, but I can't find any papers from before that.
Sounds like a job for Aether.
Get on it, Aether.
Right. So
yeah, I'd love to read some of those papers.
Adam, you want to scroll that up just a touch? Right. This is what, from The Guardian? Is that what I see?
Yeah, The Guardian, 15th of June. So yesterday.
The voice of Stephen Hawking will be beamed into space in a message of peace and hope, his daughter said, as the British physicist is laid to rest on Friday during a service at Westminster Abbey. The scientist died in March, aged 76, after a lifetime spent investigating the origins of the universe, the mysteries of black holes, and the nature of time itself. Hawking's ashes will be interred between two other major British scientific figures, Sir Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin, at Westminster Abbey. About 1,000 members of the public, selected by a ballot, will join Hawking's family for the service. The physicist's voice will also be sent into space by the European Space Agency. The broadcast will be beamed towards the nearest black hole, 1A0620-00, which lives in a binary system with a fairly ordinary dwarf star, his daughter, Lucy Hawking, said. It's a message of peace and hope, about unity and the need for us to live together in harmony on this planet. Newton formulated the law of universal gravitation and said that the foundation of modern mathematics, while Darwin's theory of evolution was one of the most far-reaching scientific breakthroughs of all time. Interment inside Westminster Abbey is a rarely bestowed honor. The most recent burials of scientists there were those of Ernest Rutherford, a pioneer nuclear physicist in 1937, and Joseph John Thomson, who discovered electrons in 1940.
Westminster Abbey, that was it.
He discovered electrons in 1940?
That's what it says.
Really? I heard Walter Lewin say that he's never seen one, and it's just the current model that we are going by.
Our best
when he
guess.
teaches his class. Yeah, exactly. This is our best guess of what it is. We don't know, but this is what we think it is.
Yeah.
I love when they say that. Oh, they discovered this. No, someone made that up.
I'm seeing that all the time. I mean, today I was looking at Doppler effect, and I'm being told that people can tell how far something is away from them using the Doppler effect. And when you dig down into it, you find out the Doppler effect is used in conjunction, which we all know. The Doppler effect is completely explainable and scientific, and everything else is that, you know, an ambulance going past you or whatever is going to make a different sound well, it's far away and then close to you and then far away again. And we're finding, I looked into it because this I'm being told that the Doppler effect is being used to determine distance to objects, and I cannot see how that is used, how it's calculated. And you dig
shift and blue shift.
Yeah, it's blue shift and red shift. I mean, we've only ever, as far as I know, seen red shift because nothing's coming towards us. So it's red shift, and it's whether red shift is even a thing or not. I know it's spectroscopy. And shout out to you, Adam.
I can't say that I'm an analyst. That's all I am.
But I look into it, and it comes down to something along the lines of another law that we're told about. Oh man, it's escaping me now. The Doppler effect is reliant on Hubble's law, and when you look on Hubble's constant, and when you look into Hubble's constant and Hubble's law, it's just a myriad of people going, why Hubble? I mean, just do a Google search on why Hubble's constant or Hubble's law is wrong, and you'll see that this is not a law, and it's certainly not a constant, and this is what people are basing these distance analysis on. And it even says in their own literature that, you know, if this theory is wrong, then everything we know about everything in terms of distance is wrong. So yeah, I concur with what we were saying before, whatever that was, because I've forgotten.
I thought Doppler shift. I've had a quick look in it. It's because the two things, the source and the observer, are moving away from each other, and because of that you get this shift, the red shift, and obviously that's all observable, but obviously any of the units are only ever again relative, therefore you can't, they're astronomical units, made up units, so you can't really, I've never really understood it.
Well, this sort of,
as you can tell,
basis geocentrism, isn't it? Because they're looking at everything moving away from us. Everything moving away from us. No matter where we look, everything is moving away from us.
Like a blown up balloon or something.
Right, which pretty much puts us in the center.
Yeah, well, unless you're on a blown up balloon. But no, you're right, Adam, with the AU. You know, what they do is revert things to things like AU, and we know that this to this is an AU, and that's a parsec, and then they start filling their theoretical equations with numbers, and then they start coming up with ridiculous.
If you base everything, John, on the distance, if you base your presupposition on the distance for your primary measurement for redshift on the direct sunlight coming from the sun, therefore that small amount of redshift is caused by 93 million miles, then everything therein is wrong thereafter, isn't it?
Yeah, just like the shadows on the Earth proving the ball, when they can quite easily prove the absolute opposite and show a flat plane.
You just have to think about it. That's really all you have to do. Just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to really do numbers or experiment even. Just think about it. It's all theoretical. It all works out. And if it doesn't, just change a few distances and add a 0 or 20. It all works out, man.
Remember, you know it's real because it looks so fake.
Does it look so fake?
I think sort of pulling this back to where we derailed earlier, it was a case of no, I can't even remember it. I wanted to link back to you, Zach, because of something I'd said where I derailed it, but I can't remember where I derailed it. So
It was during this message of peace and unity, I believe.
comedy gold.
that was good.
Have you got any thoughts or thanks, Josh? Have you got any thoughts or views on how they claim to determine to know the distance to celestial objects, Zach?
Yeah, they assumed they were on a ball from the beginning, and that the moon was smaller than the Earth because of the shadow seen on the moon during an eclipse. They assumed that was the Earth's shadow, and they assumed that the sun had to be further away than the moon, based on their angles at when the moon was at 50%. That's what they said. And the first guy who did it, supposedly, they don't even have his numbers or anything like that, except for his final results, they say. The actual mathematical equation that he used was lost. But his name's Aristarchus. And he said that the moon was half the size of the Earth, and that the sun was 10 times the size of the Earth. And I forget how far away. I think that the moon was only like 700 miles. And
I think he was the million-mile guy.
Yeah, I think the sun was a million miles. Yeah.
Yeah, moon was real close. Yeah, I mean,
that's the problem, though, isn't it? Without knowing the distance, you can't know the speed. And, I mean, we all have the time, that's fine. But without the distance or the speed, it just doesn't work. There's no way of knowing until you go there.
No,
all
it's
they know
worse
is
than
the
that.
angle.
Isn't it?
Just the angles. They know the angles. How fast it's going to move. That's it.
See, all you've got is relationships. Yeah, it's all you've got now, and you can therefore apply those relationships to 93, 5,000 miles, 93 million miles. It doesn't matter. Those relationships are there. For me, it's worse than that, because all of those relationships are only defined by our observations from the ground. They're not true observations of stellar movements. They're observations of images created in our local atmosphere. Therefore, even those measurements are only angular observations, as shout out to Alwyn puts them. They're still not fixable to anything. We don't know whether that's exaggerated, depreciated, real, or
you don't know if you're looking at the cave, if you're looking at the shadows on the cave wall. Basically, you just don't know that.
Plato's cave, yeah.
And this is the problem I've got, because there is no. I'm in communication with quite a well qualified ham in the UK, or amateur radio enthusiast or whatever in the UK, and I'm being sort of sent updates saying, look, here's what's going on. These you've got a Chinese lunar orbiting satellite that is releasing the data, and we received it on our shortwave radios and our ham radios, and all the Doppler curves are right, and they're showing us, and they confirm that it is lunar orbiting. And I've been looking all day today trying to work out how Doppler can determine distance, and as far as I can see, it can't. And there is no way that that we can determine distance without physically going there, which is why it was so important for us to fake physically going to the moon, because if they could confirm that it was 2, 3, 7 1,000 miles away, then
And this
everything else worked. Yeah, sorry, over to you, Zach. What do you reckon of that?
Absolutely. I think that's the whole reason Russia and America even had a space race. I mean, they were never. There are no real wars. The real wars happen in boardrooms, and none of us are ever privy to the outcome. We see the play that's laid before us for the reason why this certain, like World War II, I think was all about changing the way Germany was. World War One, they were changing Russia. They had to get rid of these other royal families, these other big families. They had to find a way to go in there and destroy them. I don't know how many families it is, but there were people that were not a part of the club, so to say, that had a lot of influence and a lot of power. There was good in those ranks, and I still think there's still good people, I believe, that are in these, higher up secret societies and whatnot. They're probably the real, yeah.
I'd put it further. I would suggest to you that every little bit of taught history that you're given is an excuse for how they eradicated some other piece of real information of history.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a war, whether it's a reformation, whether it's Martin Luther, all of these kind of tales that are built years afterwards. When we investigate anything, no stories are ever there at the time they're purported to be. These events never occur in local measurable times when they're there. They're always reported afterwards and grow in strength from there. I would say all of history is a subterfuge to hide something. As like I said, the wars are great examples of that, because they eradicate simple ways the old order of things in terms of royal houses. First, particularly the First World War, it's the full eradication of the old orders of the Habsburgs Empire and the likes, as they then transition into those more less Hanoverian names, and adopt, certainly without, you've got the House of Hanover, and then transition into the House of Windsor or whatever it is, or Habsburg or whatever. You know what I mean? It's all hidden, given surreptitious stories behind it, and things like wars tend to be major events for a real big paradigm shift, ready for afterwards.
Yeah, it's just a setup for all the people. It's order out of chaos. You shake things up a little bit, set everybody off tilt for a little bit. You can't just go and change things and say, okay, this is the new. This will be the way things are run now.
Well,
people won't accept that. They're going to be why.
The equivalent.
Why do we have to accept that?
Sorry. I think the equivalent of the moon landing hoax was the Christopher Columbus sail, and it was in the day. It was like in that day there was still a raging debate about whether it was flat or round, right up, and I must say right up until the 1940s. There was a raging debate as to whether it was flat or round, and it was killed by NASA and Sputnik, and it was killed by Copernicus. Sailing around Columbus, sailing around the world. So yeah, sorry, Zach, you had something to say there.
Oh, I think it was Robert Bassano who he put out a video and he put a link to it, and it was it was a released document from the Freedom of Information Act, declassified, yada yada yada. But it was before NASA, the agency before NASA. Oh, right before they started NASA.
But are you talking about the Dragnet, Operation Dragnet?
No, it could have been part of that, but it was just a piece of paper, and it actually said flat earthers on it. It said these photos are going to really shut those flat earthers up, blah blah blah. It was like a memo from one person to another kind of thing,
And
from one office to another.
what did it show?
It was when the first rockets they sent up that showed the curve of the Earth in the. It looks kind of like brown. It's black and white, but it's like brown and white almost.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, but
It's
doesn't-
referring to those photos. Yeah, it was just a memo that he found. That guy was a great researcher. I wish he.
yeah, he
I
was.
hope he got. I hope he got paid. I hope he took the money or whatever.
You're talking about Robert Bazana.
Yeah, he was.
I'd
man,
like
that
to get
guy
him
was-
on here. I'd absolutely like to get him on here. We have no Tourette's filter or anything. You can swear as much as you want. But yeah, that guy had some fantastic research. Unfortunately, no one will listen to it, or not many people will listen to it because of the swearing. How sad is that?
Yeah, that never bothered me. I mean, I'm more interested in the information that he was. You know.
All
I don't care
I
how-
remember is Robert Bassano. That's what in my head, John. I don't even remember the swearing. Did he swear? Did he? That fucker.
Well, he's welcome on here any day of the week because his research into balloon satellites, his research into
I know.
Sapphire, the what is actually probably Hubble, is invaluable research. But personally, yeah, I've sort of pointed people, including my ham radio expert, and sort of said, "Look at this. You know, if you can handle it." And most of the time they can't.
I hope he got paid because he just went dark there. And I ain't heard from him, and it's been a long time.
Is he not still around? I thought he was still around. Anyone?
Like I said, been a while.
I'm
for
not
me.
familiar. It's been something I haven't checked out.
Oh man, Walt, you got to go check out his stuff. What's his channel name was?
It was Planetas.
Oh yeah, Veritas.
Veritas.
Planete Veritas.
Oh, okay.
Planet
So now I'm
Veritas.
there. Yeah, I didn't know that was the channel you were talking about. I remember that channel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, he was
very cool.
awesome.
And he also
Very-
uncovered numerous documents, and one of them was the Operation Dragnet, which was basically during the
Launching the
Cold War. During the Cold War, they were launching thousands of balloons with spy satellites basically attached to them, and they were staying up there for weeks, months at a time, and as they would drop below 80,000 feet, I think it was, these guys would be deployed in planes to literally catch them with a hook
They-
on
they
the
had
back of a
highest
plane.
clearance.
I
They
mean,
had the highest clearance.
yeah,
I mean, colonels. They said the guy was talking about it one time, a colonel or something like that of the base or the highest guy tried to come onto the plane, and he told his guy behind him, "All right, shoot him. If he steps 1 foot on that plane, shoot
Yeah.
him."
it's like, yeah,
And then he
you're not
finally
coming on.
he read the piece of paper and he was like, "Oh wow, okay, never mind. Sorry about that. Go ahead, guys." Yeah.
But I mean, you think about these sort of operations and you think, wow, yeah, that must have been a one-off or whatever. But these things were being run off every coast of the US. They were going up 50 squadrons at a time. They were literally combing the skies to find sinking balloons, spy balloons, and capture them with some sort of hook device out of the back of a plane and literally pumping them back up and letting them off again, no doubt from Antarctica. How incredible is that?
Yeah, they said Russia, the Kremlin was lined with them. They had them running up and down the streets right in front of the Kremlin because they couldn't hide them anymore. They were catching so many of ours.
And this is documented as released under, what is it? It's declassified now. I imagine it was 1950s. Imagine what they've got now. I mean, come on.
Yeah, balloons that just stay up there forever. Solar panels on them, all kinds of stuff.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to invent a balloon that can vent itself and go up and down and even inject itself with new gas to rise and have drone-like propellers all around it, run on gyroscopes to keep it in exactly the same position. It really doesn't take a genius. So we come back to the rather large elephant in the room, that is, how do we determine the distance of celestial objects without going there? And
you can't.
When you scratch the surface, you cannot.
Nope, not possible.
So what they have to do is bring in assumptions, presumptions, theories, and everything else that says, okay, this is an AU, which is a completely made up figure or a unit, but as long as you accept that an AU is an AU, then we can determine everything else in the universe. We can tell you how much it weighs, we can tell you how much Jupiter weighs, we can tell you how much the Earth wobbles, we can determine gravity. Over to you, Zach.
Yeah, as long as gravity is applied everywhere, then we can tell you everything. My favorite quote is Neil deGrasse Tyson say, "Oh, we can predict things with gravity." It's like, shut up. No, you cannot. You looking at the stars and saying, "Oh, we're going to predict what's going to happen next year," is like watching a movie and then watching it again and say, "Hey, I'm going to predict what's going to happen at the end of this movie." Because the stars just do the same thing over and over and over and over again.
And he says,
there you go.
and he says, when asked what is gravity, he says, we've no idea. Next question.
Next question. Yep.
So how the hell does he predict anything with we've no idea? Next question. It's utter horseshit.
Yeah, these people are magicians or wizards practicing magic, casting illusions on us all. This is what they believe. And they're right. I mean, they're not wrong. They have so many people believing this stuff like it's real, and it's not. It's an illusion.
Yeah, they've got it down to a fine art. I mean, even the hand gestures of Tyson is all bedazzling stars in your face. It's always that way. You watch the hands, don't look what's going on behind. But in breaking it down, he doesn't know what gravity is, and yet he's telling you how to predict stuff using gravity and what the world was 10 billion years or 4 billion years ago. I mean, it's just horseshit. I'll say again.
I got something for you, Josh.
What you got for me, Zach?
You were talking about learning how to save seeds, right?
Yes, I exactly was.
We're going to go over this.
Excellent.
I don't know when. It's got 322 vegetables, herbs, flowers, fruits, trees, and shrubs in there. I hope it should have all the stuff you want to learn. I'm hoping. Should
be. Mine's all basic.
But I love the number. That's what grabbed my eye. This was after I've been doing a lot of research and stuff. The 322.
Yeah,
I was like, oh wow, they didn't put just 300 plus or something like that. They had to throw that number in there, 322. I was like, I bet there's real
different. Nope.
Yeah, nope, 322. So yeah, I bet there's real information in this. Just You know, just because of that number right there made me think, oh, that's one of those hidden in plain sight. This
So-
is one of those books you should buy.
What does 322 mean to you? To me, it means skull and bones. But what does it
Yeah.
mean to you?
Skull and Bones. Yeah, one of their numbers, the number of their secret society, their secret order, as you would call it, their covenant.
That to me
People.
would be a signal to run a mile. I think if something was called 321, then I'd probably look at it and have a look
Well,
at it.
now see, that's what they want you to think. They want you to
double
think
bluff.
is bad, right? But just like alchemy, they want you to think it's voodoo. It's it's
Well,
witchcraft.
I
You
think-
shouldn't practice.
I think this is where your philosophy of what you think is right to do, rather than what you've read a man talk about or write about, is probably the right way forward. It's we've got to get rid of this man influence, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I need to just listen to that little inside, the voice inside.
Well, and also get back to testing it and experimenting with it, and taking the risks of like you do, with the Tesla coil and things like that, and the other electromagnetic stuff you've got. Lose the fear of dying on the spot, because very few people die on the spot. To be fair, people do die on the spot when they're mucking around with electrics and things like this, but you've got to lose that fear, and the only way, if you don't want to rely on man to tell you how things are, then you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, you have to, like you said, experiment. I call it playing.
I call it
I enjoy
hashtag test it.
I mean, I've been experimenting since I was a little kid. I don't know how many times I got in trouble taking apart the VCR or the back of the television. I just wanted to see how it got there, Ma.
Oh yeah.
I was
That in fact, saying that, you remember when you were taking apart the VCR and you came across that weird, strange disc thing inside that span, that had amazing...
the head.
Yeah, whatever the hell it was, I don't know what they are, but I kept them from the VCRs that I took apart when I was a kid, literally 9-10 years of age, and those things just span so beautifully, and they had amazing ball bearings and everything in them. They actually formed the base of my platform that I had rotating with the gyroscope on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like 25 years later, I dug
You
them
never
out
know.
and
Yeah, you never
and,
know.
and sort of said, yes, they would be perfect. So they were mounted on the platforms. So
Set them there
VCRs.
for a reason.
Everything's for a reason. I never throw anything out, and I use almost everything. Sorry, I'm wittering.
I'm not as sentimental. I'll keep things now that are mechanically this and that or whatnot, but the piece of paper with the writing on it or things like that, they're not as important to me as they used to be. I used to hold on to all kinds of... I used to be a sentimental fool.
Yeah, I sort of understand what you're saying. I keep things that I can tell are engineered. That it's some sort of time and effort went into making this thing. In terms of the notes and
Birthday
the
cards,
very special things stay, but the rest of it, it's just sort of I know what you mean.
Now I even all my real special stuff that I pictures and whatnot, I'm just learning to let stuff go, like the past.
I think it's an important thing to do. Yeah,
I think that's
I
what
need
part
that.
of
I need to hear that,
journey
Zach. That's awesome.
this journey is part of. That's what gardening is so great, Walt. Once you start gardening, and you plant something outside and it's an annual, which means it's going to perish that year, it really helps you, you know, especially when you become friends with them and you really start caring about the plants. You don't want to see them die, but I don't want to say it gets easier. You start to learn that they're not really dead.
Yeah.
You know, just like everything else. I mean, yeah, maybe this body's going to die. The salt, you know, will be there. But that spirit and soul, it goes somewhere. Something happens to it. It becomes something else.
Yeah.
Even the salt will become something else too.
I like that, and I'm sort of talking from a point where a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, has been evicted, and all their belongings have been seized and stolen from them, basically, and they're learning to move forward in just the now, living in the now, and knowing that they've got the important things around them. They've got their pets, you know, a roof over their head, that sort of thing, and what they had trailing behind them was shackles of you know, of rubbish, basically, a lot of it. All these photos we take and everything, that's great, but how often do we go back and look at these photos? That's only when the pleasure comes from a photo, is in the years to come. You look back at the photo, and it brings back all the memories and the emotions and everything that was there initially when you took the photo. But how often do we look at photos? Hardly ever. So we're carrying all this baggage around with us that 9 out of 10 times is just baggage. We don't really need it, and yeah, that's sort of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I'm coming to the point where it's like I'll remember these things when I'm supposed to. You know, I'll see something, or this will happen, or a fragrance, or someone will say a certain phrase, and I'll remember something from when I was a little kid, or a song will come on, and it'll bring up, you know, the video game I was playing when I was listening to that album, or this and that, and yeah, it'll bring up that whole time period. I'll have, you know, 100 memories of when I was 13 years old playing Super Mario Brothers 3. You know, it's weird. It really is.
It's like a pinball machine, isn't it? Hitting all those ding, 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 and it just like bang, all the memories.
I hear Bob Dylan, I think Tiger Woods. Pearl Jam, I think Call of Duty. There's just so many, there's just so many, you know, different albums I was listening to while I was playing certain games. And I was always a big gamer, and I was always really big into music back in the day. And now I don't do much of either, but when I'll hear a song or something, it just, a wave of memories comes crashing down over me.
It's a time machine, isn't it? It just transports you back there, and even if it's just a millisecond, you've got the smell. I mean, I've heard that smell.
That's my trigger. Oh my goodness,
that's
the right scent, and I'm 2 years old again. Literally, it can do it. You know.
And it's meant to be the highest form of you know, reconciling memories is smell, and numerous times, you know, sort of walking through London markets or whatever, I've smelt the smell of food burning on the side of a pavement, and I've been transported back to you know, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania or something, and the whole thing just floods back. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. But other times, you know, I can't remember what I said 10 seconds ago. What was I saying?
I've noticed since I've been smoking cigarettes that I've been able to smell a lot more. Now, something I wasn't quite prepared for was the almost different reactions I've had to being able to smell things I'd forgotten that I remembered. If that makes any sense. Just old smells that that's a little better. Old smells that I just hadn't thought of in years because I hadn't been able to smell anything because I'd been smoking cigarettes for the last 2.5 decades. So yeah, it's almost PTSD type reactions. It's been kind of an emotional roller coaster. It's crazy.
Yeah, I went through that a couple of years ago. It's been 6 years now for me, about 6.5 almost.
Congratulations. Yeah. Awesome.
17 years I smoked. Yeah, dumb, young, you know.
I still have an occasional cigarette. I had a cigarette today. I enjoy a pipe. I've switched to pipes. That's the only reason because I've kind of gotten almost hooked on pipes. And never when the sun's up, but only in the daylight, but never when the sun's up. Is basically when I smoke a pipe.
All I can say is don't talk to me about smoking. Go read my blog.
What blog is that, John? Where could I find it?
Oh God, I don't know. savageplane.wordpress.com some crap on the end. I don't know. But no, do a search for smoking tobacco, smoking the propaganda, and I don't know. You gave up 17 years ago, Zach?
No, I smoked for 17 years. I quit 6 years ago.
Why'd you quit?
I had wanted to for a long time. Just well, money for one reason, and then just waking up and hacking up everything every morning.
So I take it you were smoking cigarettes, packet cigarettes.
Yeah.
Money will be a big factor in that. That's for sure. But no, tobacco itself, well worth researching. Have a look into a book called The Health Benefits of Tobacco by Dr. Douglas. And yeah, like I said, check out my blog post called I can't remember. Tobacco, smoking the propaganda.
Maybe you need to sniff cigarettes every time you have to remember your blog address.
Yeah. No, forget cigarettes. Tobacco is what you would be interested in, Zach, because tobacco is a plant. And as a plant, it is a plant. It is there for a reason. The way you consume it, if you consume it in packet tobacco format, then you are not consuming the plant properly.
No, you're just taking in a nicotine delivery system is all you're doing at that point.
And 1,000 other
and 1,000
toxic,
million other chemicals.
Horrible
yes, sir. That's all
chemicals.
That little cylinder is. It has nothing to do with tobacco.
Yeah, but
tobacco just happens to be one of the carrier ingredients. That's it.
There is a reason, Zach, that tobacco is in the UK anyway is unbelievably unavailable to the poor in terms of being taxed, and there's a reason why there is a worldwide knowledge in quotation marks that tobacco is bad for you, because in reality the 180 degree rule applies, and it is actually one of the best substances you can possibly investigate, but I'll leave that in your hands.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into it. I haven't seen anything I have another alchemy book that's more on the esoteric side, and I don't really read it too much or get into it too much, but it had something on. That's what I was looking for a second ago. It had something on tobacco. I'm gonna look in this one real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
They have a herbs and planet. A bunch of different plants for
each
day.
plant is under a different planet, aren't they, or a different wandering star, and therefore influenced by a different cycle. And I mean, I was reading, what was it today? Oh bollocks! A really old herbal book by.
Oh yeah, tobacco. Wow. It's in under Mars, which would be Tuesday.
Right. I've got limited knowledge of any of this, but Mars
There's
is usually
also,
like forcing something out.
Garlic is also in there. Hops, onion, nettle, radish, rhubarb, wormwood, basil, barberry, something called all heal, gentian. I've never heard of some of these plants.
Gentian, beautiful.
Cole Peppers is the book I was reading. Cole Peppers, herbs. But even Cole Peppers, like I say, with every herb book, I would use it in conjunction with 8 other herb books, at least.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, like you said before, try it yourself.
Yeah, there's no substitute for that.
There's no substitute. That's what set me on this whole journey. Of even starting a YouTube channel was I was looking for, I've always known there was something wrong since I was little. I just had that little voice inside me scream at me a couple times, and it made me wonder about things. One time, what was it? Demolay. When you guys were talking to the 32nd degree Freemason, I had asked a question to him about Demolay.
Chad,
Yeah, that's Freemasonry for children. And I was asked to join this when I was 10 or 11. And my mom okayed it. I was going to do it. I went back for my first, ritual or ceremony, whatever you call it. They'd given me a little paragraph to memorize. And we walked downstairs, and there was a bunch of candles lit, and they put a blindfold on me. And before, they even started, the little voice inside me just screamed at me. And I'd never heard it like that before. It said, "Don't do this. Stop. Just tell them right now you don't want to do this. Stop." And I did. It was one of those times where you're supposed to listen to it. And I did. I just stopped, and I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, but I don't want to do this." And it was weird because they didn't try to force me at all. I remember that very clearly. They were just like, "Oh, okay," and led me back upstairs, and said, "My mom, he decided he didn't want to do it, so that's it. You guys can go now." And we left. But ever since then, I wanted to know why that little voice did that.
Yeah.
I was very curious because I'd never heard it like that before. The only time it ever screamed at me before was I was in court testifying as a little child. Yeah, it was weird, about a pedophilia case that I had witnessed. And I was even coached to lie in court. Yeah. I've never told this to anybody before. Yeah, I was coached to lie in court as a 8-year-old little boy.
By your
and
counsel?
By a lawyer.
Wow.
And that little voice inside me screamed at me when the prosecutor guy, whatever, asked me the question. Said, "Hey, you tell the truth right now. I don't care what you did before. This is important. You need to tell the truth." And I did. And then after that was the next time it talked to me, and everything was right after that. Everything felt good after that. After I did that, I knew what I did was right. And then when it yelled at me again, it was like, "Well, why are you yelling at me about this? What is so wrong with these people? Why didn't you want me to do this?" Well, and I was always curious after that about secret societies and all this, that part of it. I knew something was wrong there. Something wasn't right.
But you touched on something there. I mean, when you do something that is right, you know it's right. It vibrates.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to use vibrates or anything like that. But you know it's right. and it feels right. Well, and no matter what the consequences are, you know that it's not a case of
It's not getting what you want.
yeah,
It's doing the right thing.
It's not the path of least resistance. It's the right thing. Whereas most people seem to try and take the path of least resistance, thinking that it will, sort itself out in the long run. But no, that's it. It's
That's what they've been taught to think. Somebody will come along and fix it. Authority, a savior, a messiah, somebody.
Then you
Yeah,
have
when
guys
that little
like me.
voice tells you. Sorry, Josh.
I was
The
gonna-
inside voice always knows. I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, as a retort to that, I was going to say that you have guys like me with a strong sense of self-delusion and an ability to justify about any bad action I ever do with a sense of certainty beyond measure that could just as well be a little voice inside my head telling me to do the wrong thing. So it's a delicate balance, I guess. You have to, it's a practice, whether you know it or whether you hear it and obey it and know it's the right thing. Being able to identify it, recognize it as the right thing, and then follow through takes practice.
I think that that is an important point without a doubt, is knowing the difference between the right and wrong. But that's what helps in this situation, is that when you do the right thing, you feel it internally throughout your whole body that you've done the right thing, whether you're about to get slaughtered or whatever. I mean, there are ways of lying to yourself without a doubt, but when you lie to yourself, you don't get this feeling of, yeah, I did the right thing. That's, I think, the difference.
You underestimate my ability to
Lie to
delude.
yourself. Yeah. Well, it's most people's ability to lie to themselves. I lied to myself for 20 plus years, quite happily and quite knowingly. If I really analysed what it was I was doing, I was quite happy to lie to myself because it felt good and everything felt good and it was fine. But it didn't give you anywhere near the feel good factor of actually doing the right thing and not lying to yourself. But yeah, I don't know what you think about that, Zach.
No, absolutely. It's like, think of it like your health. You shouldn't. I shouldn't go get that Red Bull. Yeah, there you go. Well, exactly. I know I shouldn't do it, but I should just be drinking water. That's all I should be consuming. I should be distilled water. All I should drink is distilled water. That's what I keep telling myself. But then, but I've been really good. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks that I haven't had anything carbonated.
Nice.
That this brings it all back to alchemy. Part of alchemy, I mean, the end of the journey doesn't stop in that little bottle. You're not done with it just making it. Taking it is another part of the step. Within you is where this transmutation actually finishes its process. So you need to be as pure as you're trying to make your tinctures and elixirs. You have to have a sacred space for this to take place. And it's only going to, it's like the whole 2I thing, If you only go at it with the plant being, like, that's how I did it before. No, actually I didn't. I was pretty clean. I went on a 6-week water cleanse before, but then I started drinking pop and stuff again. This time I'm not going to. I'm gonna stick to it. And I'm gonna make a good, clean place for all this magic to take place.
I think that's the point you made beautifully there, mate. And what I tried to do with my chemistry is the transmutation. These the tinctures we make, etc., are the building blocks that we give the body to perform the alchemy. And as I showed there with the sodium to potassium conversion, it's the body that performs the alchemy. What we've got to do is make it pure so it can function correctly, and then with tinctures and other and more, most importantly, your diet, give it the ability to do the alchemy, which will heal many things.
There are over 800 supposed diseases and illnesses that are nothing but mineral and vitamin deficiencies. And we know this.
Yep, I can back that up with hardcore research.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, if you just, the body knows what to do. It will heal itself. It wants to heal itself. It knows how to do it. It just, like you said, it needs the building blocks.
And it's capable. It's capable of healing itself. It's capable of growing things back and all sorts of stuff. I mean, just with your hair, you know, it's all, anyone with the hair, but
yeah, it's amazing what you can do.
So in you were into this before Flat Earth, weren't you? And
yeah,
how would you say that after your knowledge and research into Flat Earth, how would you say that your outlook has changed since Flat Earth in terms of the alchemy?
I am looking at it more with two eyes now, I would say. I was talking to the plants and everything, but I didn't understand the whole spiritual side of it all.
Exactly. You know, if they enclose you in a two-dimensional world, you only need one eye.
Yeah, exactly. I was more acting on instinct before, when now it's more or less, I understand this place better now, I want to say. I understand electricity and what's kind of taking place here, or at least what is thought is taking place here. You know, you get back to the strong nuclear force. When we say these things, most people don't know what we're talking about. The strong nuclear force, or the fire, is just whatever is making matter. It's what's holding everything together. It's that bond that makes things, you know, into what they are. It's holding all that stuff together. And then your water, or your weak nuclear force, is, they say, fission, or the losing of an electron here or there, or the radioactive footprint becomes less and less and less and less over very long periods of time. This is in modern physics. They talk about quarks and all these things that are even supposedly smaller, don't even have any matter, or this or that. It really gets into nonsense. But in essence, something is holding everything together, and then there's another force that is slowly breaking it all apart. So nothing lasts forever.
Law of entropy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the certainties. Nothing will last forever. That's the way energy works. Electricity works. The Kabbalah gets into this a lot, and they talk about when you read it, they talk about, you know, the fire does this, and then the air does this to it, and then the earth holds it in its womb, and then the water slowly washes it away, and it's explaining those forces and how they work, how the way it all gets to us, and how it all starts from the sun, or the celestial fire, as they like to call it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
There's a part in here that is, I don't think any of you guys got to hear this one, because I erased it. but it talks about the sun. Oh, okay. I'm going to read from the book just one little short, small part here. It says, "Remember, there is the sun behind the sun, or spiritual source, of which our visible star is condensed." So it's saying right there that there's the sun we see is not where the sun is actually. The sun we're seeing is a condensed version of it, a focused point.
What book's
Kind
that
of like
from?
the real alchemy book that
Right, yeah, gotcha. Robert Albert Bartlett.
Yeah, Robert Allen Bartlett.
Have you got a hard copy or is that online?
It is online though as well.
Ether.
I think it's free even.
You lost me there. Someone said, "Josh, explain your private jokes."
Well, it's not really a private joke at this point.
Well, it is to me.
Well, Ether is the guy that downloads all the books off the internet and puts them on a hard drive.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Ether. Last week. That was a long time ago.
Really private, wasn't it, that?
It was a long time ago. Give me a break. Right, so, in summary, Ether has made available this book on the Iron Realm Media server. Is that fair?
That'd be a very good question. It sounds like something to put on our agenda. Number 1 on the to-do list, to put into the search bar as soon as we get it hooked up and connected.
I've got
I
it.
wouldn't.
Right,
I
so
wouldn't
it's
be
Ether.
surprised if it's in there.
Get
I wouldn't be
your
surprised
ass in gear and put this on our server. Got ya.
That said, mine didn't come today, so it's probably going to be here tomorrow. So I could look myself very soon.
Sweet.
So you got a hard copy of that then, Zach, yeah?
Yeah, this is actually my third one. I've let people borrow it, and they've moved or just stopped answering the phone.
Never a borrower or a lender be.
He's not. He's a modern Gideon.
I just wanted to share it with them. I was sitting there talking to them about it at work, and they get all excited for a second and end up moving to Texas or quit their job, and it happens. I've lost plenty of books that way. I'll lose a bunch more, I'm sure. I love sharing
I
knowledge.
came into the end of that, but I know the thing well. I always have so many books I've bought many times over and then loaned back out, and it goes out and
Books,
carries itself across the plane.
all sorts of stuff. Yep, I've done the same thing. It's a good
Music, right?
good lesson in life for me. Sort of you just learn. It's like when you learn quickly as a young Christian. I learned not to pray for patience, because that's when you suddenly find yourself in a position where you just need to learn patience. you want patience? Okay, here.
I'll give you a reason to be patient. Yeah.
So it's one of those things that,
I've lent 2 or 3 books out and they haven't come back, and I've decided to adopt the never a lender or a borrower be, because that way I don't lose my books and I don't not give them back. So bollocks. Do I want a book? I want it.
I'm with Zach. I'm having to buy, even though I've got the later volumes, I'm going to have to buy for the 3rd time Fomenko's History Science of Fiction Volume 1, because, mate, when you've got information, you want to share it, and if it means risking losing it, so be it. And if you're on Volume 3 of Alchemy, mate, I'm on Volume 3 of Fomenko, so it's all good.
But Adam, you've got an ingredient that not many people have.
What's that?
Money. buying the bloody
I was just
books.
looking back here. I finally have gotten back 5 of the Carlos Castaneda books that I've bought. Oh, I can't tell you how many times. And the first 3 that I've just bought recently within the last year and a half, someone has them right now. So it's just a cycle.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a nerd now, and most of my books are on. Let's see, I got pruning and training, how to root cellar, winter gardening, wild edible fruit, foods, and herbal medicine, natural healing and wisdom know-how. People don't want to know that stuff.
We should do that,
Normal
actually.
people.
We should do that one week. Just
Yeah.
read out the titles of the books that are in our immediate vicinity.
Well, I was going to say, Josh, that's one of the things that Ether was chatting to me about was the gardening stuff and the survival and basic health remedies, but more importantly, all the agriculture stuff that he downloaded. I don't know if you've not got a chance yet, but
Hey, I think that's a great idea, John. I'm fixing to give you the first few right here. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it, definitely. I'll take a photo next week and I'll read it through.
The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, which I've had since I was a kid over and over, and my sister gave it to me when my son was born, this copy. Lies My Teachers Told Me by James Lowen. Phantoms Afoot by Mary Summerain. Carlos Castaneda is the next 5 books over. Then there's 3 Zachariah Sitchin books. There's Neil Gaiman's American Gods. And Whitley Strieber's Communion book. We'll stop there.
That's a good start. Yeah, it's like a trip around your neighbourhood of what's on your shelf. Yeah. I've got fuck all out here because I'm in the bus, but I'll take a photo inside and let you know. What you got, Zach?
He's mobile. We may have lost him. Uh-oh. We see you, but we're not hearing you, brother.
We saw your finger. We'll give you a second.
Oh, I didn't see the finger. I was looking at books. I got lost in the books. See, that was a bad idea after all. I got lost digging through titles. Like, wow, I have to see that again. Read that again.
Nope. He says, I can't talk. He just gave you the middle finger. He just flipped you off and said, hey, screw you. I can't talk right now with just the raise of a single finger.
I saw some bollocks about...
Should have done that. I just probably gave like 18 Masonic hand signs. Our channel's going to get shut down tomorrow. It's over.
All right, I'm back. I had to let the dogs out and had to use the bathroom myself real quick.
Who let the dogs out?
I haven't heard that in a while.
Sorry, that was cheap.
Let me see. Let me go back. Trouble about don't know in chat was just, and belief is a thief. Welcome as well. We're just talking about, does listening to audiobooks count? And I was going to say, and they've already answered there, that reading and hearing things are processed in different parts of the brain and get handled differently in the brain. I can hear somebody tell me something, but then reading it is a whole different experience. That's why I can't wait to get that book, Alchemy book, as well, Zach.
Yeah, reading it, you can, because I remember things visually a lot better. Something to do, once I read something,
religious text.
Yeah, that's like a different
is the best example I'd give. If somebody reads religious text, they give you the intonation of the text. If you read it yourself, you can get something completely different from these.
I find that,
and the neatest part is it might say something to you differently a year later.
I find it relies on
a week later
when you receive or how you receive the text or whatever it is you are inputting. If you're in a darkened room and your eyes are closed and you're listening to something, then you're fully concentrating on it. if you're in front of the TV or the PC and you're checking your emails and you're looking at the notifications and this, that and the other popping up all over the place, you may be hearing it, but you're not listening to it. So for me, I cut my teeth on MP3s, podcasts, that sort of thing, where you could only listen to it, and that's what I don't know. That was the whole idea about IRM, I think, was to have a podcast, but we sort of morphed into cameras and things like this, and being able to share
check out what we do on
screens.
Tuesday and Fridays on Truth Frequency Radio. It's quite audio
that's
driven.
pure audio, isn't it? And that's true. That's absolutely yeah. But for me, it's a
I'm
case
kind of the
of
same way. I grew up in the era of radio and listening to, well, I did anyway. I would go back and listen to old radio shows. I was a huge library nerd, so I would go check out cassettes that had old radio programs, like old War of the Worlds, old Laurel and Hardy's, old, just old stuff. So I always kind of dug it too, but I still, reading it is just a different experience. I absorb it better reading it. Always have. That's just me.
I used to listen to a lot of Cubs games. WGN. Oh, I forget what's his name.
Harry?
No, not Harry. The guy on the radio. Harry did TV. This guy got kicked off of TV for yelling, "Oh fuck." I think it was like, he was Harry Carey's partner. He was Pat Stern.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
man.
Pat Stern yelled, "Oh fuck," in 1984 when, I forget what it was. Cubs were supposed to win the pennant that year or something. And then he was with the other guy, who had diabetes and lost his legs, and he was usually wasted by like the 6th, 7th inning. He was always lit. It was so fun listening to him. Pat and Ron. I forget Ron something. He was an old Cub. But yeah, it was fun. It was like listening to George Foreman back in the day doing boxing. He'd be hammered by like the 5th round, and George he'd just take the show. I was a big boxing fan back in the day when I thought it was actually a real sport.
I was too, and Formula One, until I realised it was all rigged.
Before we get to sports ball, Savage, just to pull it back, it's just what I think, as Walt alluded to, reading, and as you said, John, especially when you're quiet and that's all you're taking in, you don't just take in the words, it's almost meditative, because like I was a proper big Doctor Who fan as a kid, proper sci-fi geek, and it wasn't Doctor Who on the TV, which I enjoyed, that made me the geek. It was reading the books. That's when I went into those realms, those and was there. And it's, like I say, it's almost meditative, because you become engaged not just in the words, but the words, as you bring them into your mind, build the reality. And there is something a lot more connective spiritually when you read than when something is narrated to you. And I think you get a lot more out of it because you connect more internally with the actual narrative or whatever it becomes, just direct words, than when
Probably
somebody
just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Finish. Because when somebody's reading it to you, they are putting intonations into the words. Often, as Zach said, you can read, and you said you can read it a week later, and the different intonation is there, and that's the beauty of all text. You can read it again later and get a different meaning. I'll stop.
You almost
I
measure
don't know,
if you've grown or not.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say you can almost measure if you've grown or not by reading something you've read before.
Yeah.
If it means the exact same thing to you, then something should be wrong.
That's
Something's wrong.
exactly where I was heading when I cut both of you off. Is I can read something again and get 1,000 different, especially, since this last 3 years of Flat Earth, reading some stuff like these Castaneda books, reading them again, it was like, oh my goodness, the things I didn't even know I missed. So yeah, that's a good analogy, a measurement of how much you've grown. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that just came out. I don't know where it came from. Someone's getting his butt scratched. He won't leave me alone. Yeah.
There was a series of tapes I got at one of the Project Awareness conferences. It was some of the Monroe Institute Hemisync tapes, which I don't know about that stuff now, but at the time I was into it big time. But it was so hard for me to sit and listen to this and learn these things through the tape. I would have to go find the books at a library and read it. It just wouldn't connect for some reason. I guess the type of information it was, I don't know, it was very esoteric, very out there. I needed to have that connection, I guess. Maybe because we're so programmable with visual things. Maybe that's how our brain is... they say this whole place is created with symbols and shapes and
sound. I think music had a lot to do with it too. I only remembered things if it had a rhythm and a beat to it, something I could almost chant. Then I could remember it, hearing it. But it was hard any other way.
And this is how they passed along information.
Yeah, they took that from us just like that.
Or smell. I always find smell is the absolute sort of 3D vision, as you'd say, Zach. Is that? Smell is.
If they ever create smell-o-vision, then we'll just assume that will be VR. Then we'll be back into this new realm of being another game like we are now, or whatever the hell this is.
They've been saying that for years, though, haven't they? I mean, I was watching Tomorrow's World and everything back in the, I don't know, 80s when they were talking about smell-o-vision and all those sort of things.
What was that movie in the 60s, 70s that had that scene? What was it? That had the smell-o-vision thing, or what was it?
I don't know, but I guarantee
Kentucky Fried Movie. I'm going to find it. Go ahead.
My God, I haven't thought of Kentucky Fried Movie in 10 years.
Never even heard of it. But on that note, Zach, it's been fantastic talking to you. I'm going to do a runner because it's getting late here. It's what is it? Nearly 2 o'clock.
Wow.
In the morning.
Well, thank you for staying up so late, man.
No worries. Love it. I love it. It's been absolutely fantastic, and we'll have to hang out.
Oh, absolutely.
Again.
Yeah. For sure.
On that note, I will bid you farewell, and thanks for a fantastic evening. It's been brilliant. I can't wait to get together again and work out this alchemy stuff, because it's just fascinating to me.
Well, I'll be more advanced next time we talk. Hopefully, we all will.
Yeah, we all will. Take it easy, bud.
See how much we've grown. Yep. Take care, John.
Sleep
Always
well,
a pleasure.
John.
Take it easy, Iron Realm Media, and I'll speak to you
Love
soon.
you, brother.
John, before you go, because a smooth exit would never be right.
He just wait. He had 15 chances. He just sat there.
An ass.
I didn't want to be rude. It's getting late. I just thought it was nice. I will see. I'll speak to you in the week, and I thought it was a good point to say, make sure you're free on Wednesday, because we're going to have a pre-show, hopefully with Martin Leaker, with regards to next Friday's show.
I'll be there. Don't you worry.
Yeah, and make sure we've got plenty of time, because we're going to need to start early, mate, because I've got a million things, and I know me and you'll be at it before we even get anywhere near pre-show. So,
Well, we probably need a pre-show on Monday and Tuesday, just leading up to Wednesday, in order to talk to Martin, because that will be a classic. But yeah, cheers for your timing. I'm off, mate. Bye.
God bless. Bye, pal.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Oh. That's why I love you guys so much. It's like you guys are family.
Oh, whether we like it or not, we are.
So you, bro. So you.
Without a doubt,
we don't.
Zach, you are here and one of the family friends.
We've stopped saying family. We've got to stop using familus. You're part of the realm.
Or fe. It's an F-E.
F-E, Emily.
Family.
Yeah.
Family.
Family. I like that.
So I think we may need to talk to Carl and maybe set up a Gudtims4all username as well. I bet you there's plenty of books in there he would love to peruse.
Oh, man, we got a gold mine. A gold mine.
Yeah, I love reading now. Information. You know, I used to love fantasy and fiction and all that kind of. Hey, come on, buddy. Come on. I think that okay.
They want to be on camera, right? Let them be part of the show.
It
He
makes
wants to sleep in
I like
the
to kill it. That's the was rich when it dies.
Usually we have the older one, Surrey. She's the older little Dachshund Chihuahua, and she's 11 now, I think, and she hates that noise. And if she was down here, she would be growling at him and barking, and she takes it, and then she'll go hide it. She'll go stick it on. I have a mattress over here for napping and whatnot. You know, I love my naps in my lab. She sleeps under the blanket all the time, like 24 hours a day. She's underneath that unless she's going to the bathroom or eating. She's in my little, it's just a mattress laying on the ground. And she loves it there. But yeah, that's where there's like 4 squeaky toys over underneath that blanket right now. I guarantee it, that she's hiding from everybody else.
Sounds just like my dog. She's absolute fun police. No one else is allowed to play with toys. She wants them all. She's not allowed to play with them, mind you, but I'll be damned if anybody else is going to play with them either.
Oh yeah, that's Surrey.
And my little one
they're-
under the covers as well.
Yeah, you gotta love them. They're family.
So I had a couple things and I totally forgot what at least one of them was. They were both pretty woo.
Hey, come on, man. All right, that's it. Dad's putting it up.
One
Okay,
was
I'm gonna do it.
really strange. Oh, so here's something kind of weird. So just over the last couple weeks, listened to over there to Nathan Oakley 1980s channel, listening to Nathan and Tony over there talking. And for some reason, for the last couple weeks, it's really stuck out. For whatever reason, the lack of the word something. They don't use the word something. They use a different word, like an abbreviation, a bastardization of the word something. And it's only recently has it sort of caught my attention. And I've just sort of been mulling it over and mulling it over and mulling it over. And then all of a sudden, here's this meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. And I thought, well, I'll be damned. There's that effing word again. It's like that bastardization of something. They're having a summit. I said, well, shit. That word just keeps popping up over and over again. So just something that caught my eye, or ear, rather. So, okay, so here's something that did catch my eye. Iridology. Have you guys heard of iridology?
Mm-hmm.
No.
So basically, it's this. Here, I will send a link to this Skype.
Essentially, it's like what's going on with the iris of your eye can tell you many things about your health.
Okay, yeah. I've
That's
heard people say
shorthand.
that.
There's a lot of layers and levels you can take that to, spiritually and otherwise as well.
So, once upon a time, I don't care if I catch crap for this.
Hey.
As a Facebook profile, I just thought it would be cool to take a picture of my iris and take it and run it through a few filters and get some cool colors brought out, because I've got, like, you know, some crazy colors in my eyes, and you add some filters and it makes it look really cool. So I did it, and I just posted it up on Facebook as my profile picture for a while, and somebody had said something about, I don't know, first introduced me to this idea of iridology, and I didn't really get into it. I could see, you know, maybe it's beyond me. I don't really give two shits, whatever. But then I guess it was the whole way back on this day type thing Facebook has, and somebody else had maybe seen it and was looking at it and asked me if I'd had any problems, you know, with my back or with my chest, sort of in that area. You know, just basic looking at my iris, just thought that maybe there might be something there. I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, I said, let me think. I don't remember, probably age 14 or 15, sort of the equivalent of Little League, sort of pre-school organized sports, just little kids wrestling. I was like actual wrestler on the mat, Roman Greco wrestling style at like 13 years old, 14 years old. And I was relatively good right up until the point I had a match, and I was taken down from a standing position, and I fell on my left side. The opponent was on my right side, and when he fell, my shoulders basically touched in the middle, and there was not much I could do. I couldn't raise my arms or anything. Even, you know, I was pinned almost immediately because there wasn't anything I could do, but can't breathe. My whole chest is just tight and screaming with pain. Basically,
oh my gosh.
it was just it was diagnosed as like a thoracic sprain. And basically, I just sprained all that stuff right up and through there when he landed. And even to this day, when I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, sometimes if I have a full bladder and things get shifted, I wake up and I just can't breathe. I can just take really very shallow breaths, and it's just excruciating pain until I can, you know, get up and get shifted and get all the muscles loosened up again. But when you look at that iridology chart, I'll be damned if that doesn't line up almost exactly. And I just thought that was strange. Just one of those, you know, I don't know if it's true or not, but there is this.
There is stuff that they do now when you just go to the opticians, and they'll take the eye puffer test, which
I was going to say they'll blow a bit of air in your eye.
Yeah, ocular pressure testing, which has all sorts of other secondary recommendations they make in terms of diabetes, glaucoma, and other things. So there's a lot of stuff that I think your overall well-being is indicated in the retina or the back of it itself. So yeah, modern medicine wouldn't poo-poo that.
I have blue, green, brown, yellow.
Yep.
My eyes are weird.
Right, mine change quite a bit depending on mood and what's going on around me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I've got a live science article here. Give me a second. I'll share it.
While you're sharing, I don't want to get too far from this point before the chat makes me forget and it gets out of my sight. Belief is a Thief had a little point earlier about just the written words and things we were talking about. But on the point about reading text, so not being given intention, I wonder if people that can read music would hear it, make their own intonation, etc. And I actually play and read music. I'm not great at reading music. I read tablature a lot better, but in choir and all that, I had to learn how to read music. And one of the things we did, especially in my college years of choir, the director would make us, especially pieces he wrote for us. He was a tenor, so he wrote amazing stuff for us tenors. Is learn it and then put the music away, and that's when you start putting yourself into it and your own, as you say, intonation and stuff. So again, reading it, getting it in there, and then putting your own thing into it, that was one of the best things about the music to me. So I didn't want to lose that point because the chat's going to get too far gone and I'll forget.
I never learned to read music. I could kind of read tablature, where it just puts the little. You sing that word, that's when you're supposed to hit that. And see, I'm very good with. I was really good at remembering how songs go, the rhythms and whatnot. So the whole strumming, that just kind of came to me. That was
right.
That was easy for me. That wasn't hard. It was knowing where to put my left hand, when to change the fingers to the different chords that I had took me effect.
Right.
But yeah, reading music, I have no clue. I couldn't tell you scale.
And that's been years. If I had a piece of music now, I'd probably go, it'd take me probably 20 minutes to stumble through it. So.
And to keep my little brother up on that, he was with the piano. He composed in college.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because music's always been a big part of his life. Well, I was learning how to play. I played for 11 years while he was growing up as a young kid. So that was a big influence on him. And me and him would go out in the garage and jam all the time. It was, just something we do. He'd always do the talent show. He did the Jimi Hendrix Star Spangled Banner when he was like 12 years old at the talent show. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Shredded, and everybody was screaming. I was so proud. That was just, that was one of them. I'll never forget that one. Yeah, but music it's more inside. Once you can put that piece of paper away and you already know the song and it's inside you, then you can add yourself to it. That's why we're so blessed that we get to hear Jimi Hendrix. That they were able to record Jimi Hendrix before he died. Because it don't matter who's playing Little Wing, nobody can do it like Jimi Hendrix can. So many songs. Pick a song, a Jimi song, and try to tell me somebody that can play it like he did.
Castles Made of Sand still has to be my favorite Hendrix tune of all time. That song is just, I love it. I would play it, but I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Just imagine what Mozart or Beethoven, if these guys were real, Imagine what the greats of back then sounded like on a piano or a harpsichord. Some of the
Paganini
that they could do.
Paganini, the violinist. Anyone? No. He's one of the first considered like rock stars there ever were. He was literally the first guy who was a rock star. He was known as this artist who, number one, acquired his phenomenal talent. How? By selling his soul to the devil, of course. Then you would attend his concerts where all these ladies in their fancy garb would all be just fluttering their kerchiefs, which they had purchased on their way into the event with his emblem of his silhouette on the frickin' kerchief. That's how advanced this dude had his own memorabilia going. He could do shit with the violin, like make it talk. Say his current mistress was in the audience, it would say her name, imitate animal sounds, and then the music, oh my goodness. Just go pull up some of Paganini's Caprices. Amazing. You can hear that it's some spooky stuff that guy was doing for sure. So, yeah.
Who was like a guitar player back in the 20s who was insane?
Django with Robert Johnson.
Well, no, Robert Johnson was amazing. He was a blues
Django
player.
Reinhardt was the guy with the 2 fingers that could do
Yeah.
stuff that sounded like guys would do in 8-finger stuff. Yeah, man. Django Reinhardt was amazing. We're going to have to play some of this stuff, damn it.
Well, we do have some music somewheres.
I'm going to go find some Django right now.
Well, we've made it this far without mentioning that it's already the 15th.
Is it
Sorry
the...
about that, guys.
No, that's cool.
Which means come Monday. Come
Monday.
It'll be all right.
Come Monday.
I'll be holding you tight.
I'll be holding days.
Brown LA haze. I just want you back by my side. Yeah, I saw Jimmy Buffett twice. No, I saw him twice. I didn't make it my third show. That was a great time, though. First time I went, I got called a fool, and then I got everybody to come with me, and they all loved it. I made so many parrot heads. Never even heard a Jimmy Buffett song besides Margaritaville. And then they went to a show, and they just fell in love with just the atmosphere. It is. It's a fun time. It was.
Least favorite Jimmy Buffett songs is Margaritaville. That and Cheeseburger in Paradise. Don't like that one either.
No,
I like
think my
stuff.
Parrot heads. Yep.
Gypsies in the Palace. I love Gypsies in the Palace. A Pirate Looks at 40.
I was gonna say Pirate Looks at 40's got to be one of my favorites.
Parrot heads and dead heads are why I called my channel Flat Earth Head when I first started my Flat Earth thing, because I was trying to stay hidden away and my family would see my crazy stuff, so I had to come up with a name. That's why I'm Flat Earth Head.
Do you guys want to go see the garden?
Hell yeah.
Always.
It might switch over to the Wi or the not. Yeah, I'm probably gonna turn it off for the Wi-Fi once I get out here.
My zucchini got big, gorgeous flower coming out. I'm so excited.